Calling this hearing to order. For the record, my name is Kenzie Bach. I'm the District 8 City Councilor and also the chair of the Boston City Council's Committee on City Services and Innovation Technology. Today is April 11th, 2023. This hearing is being recorded and it's being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and FiOS Channel 964. You can send written comments on this hearing to the committee email at ccc.csit@boston.gov. Those will be made part of the public record and available to all councilors, and I want to thank folks who have already sent us in written testimony. We've gotten some great written comments. We'll also be taking public testimony in this hearing, so if you want to sign up for public testimony here in the chamber, I know some of you have done this already, but you can sign up on those sheets in the corner. And if you are watching from home and you want to testify, please email Megan Kavanagh at meghanagh@boston.gov. That's megan.kavanagh@boston.gov for the link, and Megan will send you that and add your name to the list. So today's hearing is on 3 dockets. We are taking care of a comparatively small recycling dividend program grant, so that's docket 0611, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $100,000 in the form of a grant for the Recycling Dividend Program awarded by the Mass Environmental Protection Division to be administered by the Public Works Department. The grant will fund curbside recycling and other programs and policies proven to maximize reuse, recycling, and waste reduction. That matter was sponsored by the administration and referred to the committee on March 22nd, 2023. And then the 2 main events are a pair of dockets. One is docket 0144, order for a hearing to discuss pest control in the City of Boston. That's co-sponsored by Council President Ed Flynn, Councillor Liz Braden, and Councillor Gabriela Coletta, and was referred to the committee on January 11th, 2023. And then docket 0443, order for a hearing to discuss trash contracts and procedures in Boston, which is a matter that was sponsored by myself, Councillor Kenzie Bach, Councillor Ruth C. Louis-Jen, and Councillor Michael Flaherty, and that was referred to the committee on February 15th, 2023. So we co-noticed these dockets because obviously the pest challenge and the trash challenge are deeply intertwined. And as we've been having a series of conversations about pest control in this committee over the last few years, one of the things that's consistently come up has been the question of how to fine-tune our trash contracts to get the best form of service for the city and to reduce the amount of time that trash is out on the street. So that's why we put these 2 things together, and I'm grateful to all the co-sponsors, and I know a few of them will be joining in a minute, just a little bit late. We did start this hearing early, and thank you to everybody who accommodated in your schedules. I think folks know that Mel King's funeral is this afternoon. Obviously, we didn't know that at the time that we scheduled the hearing, but we didn't want to cancel it. So that's the reason for the early start. And we're joined here today by John Ulrich, our Assistant Commissioner for the Environmental Services Division and ISD, Dennis Roach, our Assistant Superintendent of Waste Reduction, and John Blackmore from Code Enforcement and Public Works. And so very grateful to them because that's kind of all the different components of the city that work on this problem from different angles. So I will go first briefly to my colleagues just for quick opening statements, and then I will go to the panel. I'll ask Dennis to address the recycling grant, and then we'll move into this broader conversation about pests and the trash contract, and then we'll go from there. So Councillor Braden, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for being here this morning. This is a perennial conversation. I think it's a really timely one just before we launch into our budget conversations to check in with progress on trash control, trash and recycling, and also pest control. I don't know, I think our neighbour, my district is particularly impacted by the issue of rodents, and a lot of it is driven by inappropriate trash disposal and inadequate trash containers, etc. As Councillor Bach said, these 2 issues are very, very intricately related to each other. And I really look forward to the conversation this morning. I know we're constantly sort of trying to push the envelope and see if we can identify any other tools in the kit that we can use to address this issue. I know from talking to neighbours and constituent calls that young people are finding rats in their apartments, in their apartment buildings, and families are finding that they don't want to put their kids out and let their kids out, play out in the yard because they've rodents running around. So it's a very distressing issue for so many of our residents, and I just hope we just continue to push the envelope and see if we can improve the situation. So thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, Councillor Braden. Councillor Murphy?
Thank you. Thank you for holding both together. Also, like you said, trash and rats go hand in hand. So in my neighborhood in Dorchester on my street, as we've spoken several times, there's a rat issue. There's also apartment buildings, and we've talked about ways to support how we put the trash out, when we put it out, and I know you guys are experts in, the food and how to stop the rats and making sure that we're doing everything possible. And I know we've spoken about the walks with the neighborhoods and the information. I think the more we push out that information to residents on how they can be proactive in supporting this, it's not just the trash pickup side of it, it's also informing people in every language and every neighborhood the best ways to store their trash and put out their trash. And so just looking forward to this conversation. It's such a quality of life issue, and we are coming up to budget season, so it's a good time to find out if your department needs more resources so that we can deliver on what I would say is one of the #1 concerns when it comes to quality of life issues. And I know the 311 data shows also a lot of their calls that come into 311 are related around trash pickup and concerns around that. And it's a public health issue also. So thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Yeah, I mean, to me, this is the #1 quality of life issue in the city. And I will say that I, as the District 8 councillor, represent a bunch of neighborhoods that just don't have containerization. And that obviously is a significant factor here in terms of the overnight rat nocturnal activity. And I want to give a shout out to my staff. Jake Werner and Anthony Baez are here, and Kennedy Avery is back behind the scenes. And, I think this is something we're dealing with in all of our neighborhoods day in and day out, and they've done a lot of prep for this hearing. And, I think the more we've thought about solutions, when I first came in as councillor, the new trash contract had just moved the time from 7 a.m. start to 6 a.m. start. And in our neighborhoods, that was, seen as a real concern because 6 a.m. is a harder time to ask people to wake up and put trash out. And so the concern was that more people would put it out overnight, which of course they're allowed to do starting at 5. I think that especially with the kind of boom in the rat population that we saw in COVID in our residential areas, and I know a lot of that was like a relocation, but it's continued. I think in many ways the conversation in the neighborhoods I represent has moved on to we just need to not have trash out overnight, period. And especially in the places that aren't containerized. It's just offering the rats a buffet overnight. The way I think about it is like the bags, the little one-ply bags might as well not exist. It's like pouring out food on the sidewalk for 12 hours. You were saying, Councillor Murphy, that these two issues go hand in hand, and I found myself thinking, or claw and claw. So I think for us, we've been talking about the trash contract for a while. We know that you guys are in this moment of thinking about how to rewrite it. And for me, focusing on the typology of the neighborhoods and thinking about, can we have a tailored approach for the neighborhoods that specifically have bags out on the sidewalk is important. And I know that we've talked in other hearings about containerization, and I think there are places where there's real opportunities for a pilot on that front, and places where that could be a part of the solution, but I know that can't be a solution everywhere in the district, so really interested in the contract question. So those are just some comments from me. I want to go, though, and let the administration panel speak. So Dennis, I would really appreciate it if you would just speak first to this recycling grant, which is in the committee, and I'm hoping to be able to move forward tomorrow. So just would love if you could speak a little bit to that, and then we can zoom out from everybody on the trash contracts and the pest issue.
Sure. My name is Dennis Roach. I'm the Superintendent of Waste Reduction for the City of Boston. The Recycling RDP grant is an annual grant we apply for through Mass DEP. It's a tiered kind of system. We get points for recycling programs we offer in the neighborhood. There's a lot of diversity and inclusion included in those things and how we offer them in terms of being multilingual, multi-neighborhood, all those types of things. But it's a tiered approach that we get points and we earn credits towards receiving dollars to fund these programs. So over the last 5 years, it's been a typical about an $80,000 annual grant. We continue to earn more points, a lot this year due to curbside composting and some other elements, but now the grant is up to $100,000 that we present in front of the council to accept. And we will continue to spend this money on those particular type programs. So it's everything from hazardous waste days to curbside composting to yard waste drops to curbside yard waste. All those things are eligible to spend this type of funding on.
Got it. And do we do we have to consult with the Mass Environmental Protection Division about those types of things, or do we just kind of tell them what we're doing?
There's a grant process that it has a specific guideline to follow, but we are constantly in conversation with Mass DEP. We meet with them probably at least monthly, going through all these programs, what we're implementing. We're also trying to anticipate what the next types of rules and regulations they're putting in for either food composting or, as you guys recently seen, the mattress ban. But we just want to anticipate those things before those particular bans come in, so we're constantly meeting with them and they're guiding us through the RDP process.
Got it. Great. All right. And then why don't we, obviously colleagues can feel free to ask about the recycling grant if you like during questions, but why don't we jump into the other two dockets and whichever order you gentlemen want to go in.
I can go first. John Ulrich, I'm the Assistant Commissioner of Environmental Services. We're an enforcement division of Boston Inspectional Services. Our main function is the enforcement of the sanitary code as it pertains to rodents and trash. We have 14 licensed inspectors that cover 22 wards across the city. I appreciate the council's continued work and partnership on the issue.
Great. Thanks, John.
Dennis Roach, my role in this as superintendent of waste reduction is we oversee all the trash and recycling programs citywide for residential services. We don't impact commercial until enforcement, which John will kind of talk about his role in that. But we oversee everything from regular trash contracts to recycling contracts, which are the Blue Bins program, to many food composting programs, including curbside, Project Oscar. Recycling of mattresses now new this year, yard waste recycling programs, hazardous waste recycling program, e-waste, all those types of things that you see in the neighborhood that come around this summer, paint and oil drops. So we manage all those programs for our residents.
Good morning, John Blackmore, Director of Code Enforcement. I'm in charge of the code enforcement officers for the City of Boston. We're a 24-hour operation, so we have officers out on the streets 24 hours. The residential trash can be put out after 5 p.m., unfortunately. Commercial trash after 6 p.m., so it does sit out there all night until the trash picks it up in the morning. Just because you can put it out that early doesn't necessarily mean you have to. Obviously, we'd like to see it put out early in the morning, but when the trash does start at 6 a.m., it needs to be on the sidewalk by 6 a.m. Commercial stuff's a little more heavier because it is, most of it is containerized. The residential stuff's not. It's just put out on the sidewalk in 2-ply bags, and the way the ordinance is written, that is illegal. So that's what we need to look at.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think we're gonna mainly, obviously, kind of get into the heart of the matter here with questions. I'm gonna first just allow Council President Flynn, who's just joined us, who is the lead sponsor of Docket 0144, to make an opening statement, and then we'll jump in with some questions. Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Councilor Bach. Thank you, Councilor Bach, for your leadership on this important issue, and for all of my colleagues, Councilor Murphy and Councilor Braden, and all of the other councilors for the important work, but also want to acknowledge the city administration team that's here and that's out in the city and in the neighborhoods that are doing a tremendous job working on this very difficult issue. Rodent control, trash disposal are issues that I've brought attention to over and over again over the last 6 years. As we all agree, there has been a significant increase of rodent activities in the past couple of years, particularly. We've had neighbors reach out to us and all of the councilors concerned about pest activities, as they have reached out to the mayor's office as well, during the budget process. We have advocated for more rodent control resources. It's an important issue, not just in my district, but across the city, in Councilor Braden's district and Councilor Bach's district as well. So I wanted to discuss ways the city can adequately handle these issues, including increased enforcement, more public awareness and outreach about proper ways of disposing trash, preventing rodent activities. I know that some of my constituents have also been talking about doing a pilot program on using those hard top trash cans to prevent rodents from getting into the trash. I believe we actually did one probably right before the pandemic in the south end. Not sure what happened to that pilot program. It's important that we discuss measures for effective pest control and keeping our streets clean, especially when we're trying to keep our residents and environment healthy as well. We need to talk about how we can better help our neighbors, especially those that live in the downtown neighborhoods, to contain their trash so that it will not attract rodents. Illegal dumping is also a major problem in my district, especially in Chinatown and in some of the downtown areas. Trash is not properly disposed of, can attract rodents, as we all know, and this causes a public health issue, major public health issue. So again, want to say thank you to the panelists, and had a chance to work with all of you over the past several years. We've been on numerous calls in the field, in the different neighborhoods, meeting with the residents on site. I also have talked to different cities across the country, in here in Massachusetts as well. So I'd like to work with you in learning about what's working well in Boston, what's not working well in Boston, what resources we have, what resources we need. This is the budget process season. We increased the budget to deal with this issue last year, and I think we need another significant increase as well this year. It's a quality of life issue. It's a public health challenge, major challenge as well. Thank you.
Thank you, President Flynn. A couple questions from me. One of them is, it has seemed to me, like observationally on Beacon Hill, that the actual pickups have kind of shifted later and later, and we're often seeing the trash in the afternoon, get picked up in the afternoon. And so I guess I was wondering, Dennis, if you could speak to, to me, if we've got the trash being picked up in the afternoons anyways, when in theory, part of the theory of the 6 a.m. start was that they were going to be right there in the early morning. It just seems to me like we could eliminate the having to drop it off, being allowed to drop it off at 5 p.m. the night before, because it would be reasonable to ask people to do it on the same day, and that would just have a huge impact. So I'm kind of curious how we're thinking about time windows and an ability to shift on that for the new contracts.
Yeah, I mean, so we're reconsidering everything as part of our new contracts. I think the way the contracts are written now, especially I think when they were won, there was a lot of low bid type scenarios and less focus on service. So in low bid scenarios, you get a trash contractor that's obviously coming at the least dollar. So they're cutting resources, they're cutting trucks at certain times based upon the way the contract's written and what's allowable under the current contract. So they're shifting a lot of resources. We're obviously asking them to shift a lot of resources to get more efficient for what they give us. So that's why you're seeing some inconsistent pickup times and things like that. But I think the way we look at contracts and the way they're written is a big step forward in how these are managed, and big step in how we service homes. I'm not going to say we're not going to focus on price, because we obviously are. We'll be fiscally responsible, but if we write better contracts, we can get better service, and that will be the ultimate goal of having new contracts.
And what do you think about, so when we dove into these contracts, I hadn't sort of fully focused on how the city is grouped in different sections, like I guess Beacon Hill and the North End and Charlestown are in with Roxbury and such. And I found myself, as I was looking at it, just thinking could we do different subcontracts where there's one that's specifically, or maybe multiple that are specifically focused on the non-containerized neighborhoods. And like, because to me, I mean, again, in a neighborhood where everybody's putting it out in a bin, I don't think people putting it out at 5 p.m. is really a problem, right? And so I think, but in our neighborhoods it is. So like, I would love if we were able to write same day trash contracts for the non-containerized neighborhoods and then have a more expansive period of time for the containerized ones.
We're definitely going to look at the way the neighborhood groupings are done. That's a big part of how we write it. I think currently they are sort of grouped that way. I don't think it was for that particular reason, but downtown, which is District 1, is grouped with District 10 in Roxbury. The reason that happens is because there are multiple pickups daily for those districts. Those are the only two, the weekly pickups, those are the only two districts, downtown and Roxbury, that gets 2 pickups a week, and that's why they were grouped together. A lot of the groupings is based upon making it easier for trash contractors to bid on them, so when they designate a set of trucks for the groupings, it's consistent between neighborhoods. They're usually similar sized, similar resources. In this particular case, it's because they serve their residents 2 times per week. We will definitely be looking at all the groupings to make sure they make sense. I think there's a lot of tweaks we can make with these groupings. These groupings are probably 15 to 20 years old now, and things have changed in the city and everything has changed. So it's time to relook to see if we can get more efficient and to better regulate the times in which we pick up neighborhoods.
And can you talk a little bit just about, I was super excited that you guys hired that trash fellow. Can you just talk a little bit for the record about what they're doing and what they're up to?
So we have a trash fellow posting still.
Oh, you still don't have the person?
We still have the posting.
Oh, no.
Yes, so an offer was made. There was some issues on the particular candidates, like around residency and other things. So we're still posting, we're still looking. We have a team of trash people in our city that have formed a task force that is getting to work on doing some prep work ahead of getting a trash fellow in. So when the trash fellow comes in, they can hit the ground running. So a lot of the stuff that we're doing prep-wise is doing some of the thought based around some of the issues you're bringing up with containerization in certain neighborhoods, how to move districts, talks about what's important to us and moving trash times and put out times and all those types of things. We're trying to do all that prep work in advance so the trash fellow can hit the ground running.
And can you just walk the council through what the timeline for issuing the new contract is?
Yeah, we would be looking to have trash contracts to bid by October, November. So the bid will probably go out around that time for about November timeframe.
Got it. And then the
start would be the completion of these current contracts ends June 30th, 2024. Mm-hmm. So we'll be looking at a July 1st, 2024 start for the new contracts.
And then we just saw that in the existing contracts, the tonnage estimates were sort of 2014 to 2018. How has that changed? I know there was a big tick up in residential trash during COVID, but I don't know if that's come back down or.
Yeah, it's definitely come back down a little bit. I also think some of the little programs we've managed have helped. Certainly curbside food composting, which took in 500 tons in the first 6 months and is still growing and expanding. I think that's going to have an impact over time. Those, when they're happening in other jurisdictions, it takes a little time for people to get fully involved with the program and for the cities and towns to ramp up, but once it gets going, it takes away some of the tonnage. It also takes some of them very more important materials off the street in terms of rats, right? You're taking food out of the actual trash and the containers and putting them into sealed types of containers. So that's a big program, I think, and it could have more impact on a lot of things we're talking about here today. But overall, it did spike tonnage when people were at home during COVID, and those tonnages have started to slowly kind of dissipate, along with these other programs that we're taking away some trash out of some streams out of our trash.
Got it. Okay, and then last question from me before I go to colleagues. So I'm just curious, we do, President Flynn mentioned illegal dumping. We definitely have places where that happens. I think in particular places where there's large buildings where there's a lot of trash that's building up, people say oh, no one will notice my additional bag or two, and then it can turn into quite a lot. And then we have people who are, unlucky enough to be sort of the ones who live at the address where somebody keeps illegally dumping, and then they get the citations. And I'm just sort of curious, and I don't know, maybe John, if this is a question for you, but what are kind of investigatory processes, or if somebody comes to us and says, hey, I keep getting these tickets, but it's not my stuff. How do we escalate that? How do we think about it?
So what happens if the officers go out, if they respond to a 311 complaint for an illegal dumping, they'll physically put on a pair of rubber gloves and go through the trash to see if they can identify where the trash is coming from. Back bay is a little tough because everybody drops the trash at the mouth of the alleys. So the officers are instructed, if they don't find any evidence at the mouth of the alley, that they're not to write a violation to that building, because it's not fair. It's not coming from them. It's coming from the person that lives 4 houses down halfway in the alley, walking out to go to work, and they drop the trash at the mouth of the alley. So if they find evidence, they will issue the illegal dumping violation, and then what we do is we put in a C collection case for highway to come out and remove it, which is the Department of Public Works Highway Division. They'll send a truck, they'll send somebody by, and they'll physically remove the bags of trash.
And what about the situation where we ticket somebody's house? Because let's say it's not the mouth of an alley, right? It's like just in front of somebody's house. We ticket them. We do it a few times. They reach out to us and say, "Look, it's not me," but we don't have evidence from the bags of who it is. How do we handle that?
We'll work with them on the ticket, and we'll go through the dismissal process. If we can prove it's not coming from their household, we'll definitely work with them, and we have.
Okay, I want to go to colleagues. I'm going to go to Councillor Braden and then Councillor Flynn as co-sponsors, and then Councillor Murphy. Councillor Braden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few questions. I think I'll just continue on from the recycling. I would love to know how the recycling of the mattresses is going. My concern is Alston Brighton has a lot of turnover, especially around what we call Alston Christmas. I'm expecting that we're going to have thousands of mattresses at that time. How's it going? What sort of numbers are we getting? And do we see, one concern I have is that if people are just putting them out, they don't know to call 311 and get a ticket to have it come and be picked up. So and progress report on that would be good.
Yeah, I mean, so the mattress recycling ban definitely brought a unique problem to the city. It's a very difficult program for a city to run. Nobody knows how to run one specifically, but we put out 2 contracts for bid. And we have 2 contractors that have essentially split the city in half. There was a guesstimate on how many mattresses we were getting in the city, and that was about 35,000 annually that we put out, which is a lot. Estimated to about 150 per day citywide that we go pick up. So each contractor has to handle 75 mattresses per day. They get scheduled by 311. They get put on a list. It's definitely been a work in progress. It's something that it's very hard to manage. It's very hard to anticipate where the volume's coming from, where the mattress is coming from. It's also very hard to manage because in a city where we don't charge our residents to pick up mattresses, we have a ton of surrounding jurisdictions that do. So illegal dump mattresses come into the city probably all the time, and we're trying to work on them too. So I'd say, I'd give ourselves like a C plus B minus right now for handling what volume is out there, but it was a very difficult program to put in place. It's still hard to manage. It's still hard to, mattresses are a different program. It's not like the TV, like bulk items like TVs where you get rid of a TV when it breaks or something like that. Mattresses, you get rid of it when you're ready to move out. Mm-hmm. So you don't have a week sometimes to wait to get it picked up like you do a TV. So it's a struggle. Half the city is on basically a 2-week wait window, and half the city's on a 2-day wait window. We've done something this week. We've made a change in districts between the contractors who have been very willing to work with us, and we're changing that all around so we can kind of equally distribute them a little bit better. So we hopefully knock that wait down to, in reality, we'd love our wait to be no longer than 48 hours, but it's been a work in progress. We're trying to get there. It's been a very difficult program to anticipate, to manage, and to figure out real solutions for. So
this, we're starting now, students will be leaving, young people will be leaving the city. We'll start to see more in our neighbourhood anyway, in District 9. And do we have a big plan for
so we do.
we're
going to have a multi-tiered plan. We work with our highway division, but in terms of our contractors, we built that into our contract surge periods. So instead of having to pick up 75 per day, each contractor for the month of May into the first 2 weeks of June have to pick up 150 a day. So we'll be taking on more capacity to the schedule. That was built into our anticipation of those contracts. With that said, we still don't know what the volume is because often people, you know, they don't want to call on, you know, August 30th to get a mattress scheduled on May 7th. Everybody wants to get rid of their mattress probably on May 31st, right,
Yeah.
before move-out day.
Yeah.
So we do anticipate some issues, and we're going to have all of our highway team and everybody ready to kind of pitch in and thing, but it's a difficult thing to manage for sure. But
are we able to work with some of the bigger landlords to sort of try and, you know, notice that and make sure that?
yeah, so we're actually we're sending out, it should be going out any day, but we're sending out a different mailer to everybody citywide. We were initially going to target the high volume areas for move-outs in May, but we're going to do it citywide. That's going to have information for landlords, for residents calling 311. It's going to have all that information that should be going out in the next week or so.
The other question I had was really about, you know, confusion about the requirement of landlords to provide adequate containers for trash. What is, you know, if it's a two or three family unit, what is the requirement for landlords to provide containers for trash?
For 2 or 3 family unit, there is no particular requirement. We do require, you know, ask people to recycle, and we do provide the recycle bins, but there's no container requirements for trash.
So there's no container requirement. Is that something we need to change?
I think it's something we should all be looking at in terms of containerization,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Yeah. How am I doing for time there, Madam Chair?
Just a couple more minutes.
Couple more minutes, okay. The other thing, we're seeing a lot of new development in Alston Brighton, and one thing that we've been asking developers to do is to actually build the building so that they can have their trash containers within the envelope, like underneath, whatever. Is that something that you folks have been talking to BPDA about? Because I know the more voices who elevate this issue, the more likely it's going to actually get.
We've had some initial discussions with BPDA. They often don't consult us on these types of issues, but we've definitely pushed that forward to them. That it's a big concern. Big buildings are a big concern citywide. They're coming up everywhere. The volume of trash is incredible. It's adding to our trash volume as they pop up. A lot of the higher end big buildings will choose private trash service, but they're not required to. So we do have to service them as they come online if they choose to do so.
Yeah.
So it's increasing
and that's
our
an
trash
area.
volumes.
Yeah, and that seems to be an area of confusion. You know, is this a private contract that the landlord sets up, or is it city pickup? And I don't know how do we navigate that?
So we will service any building 1 day a week. These big buildings, some of them size need 2 to 3 day pickups. So often they'll just go private, and they'll continue to go private. But if they ask us for 1 day of service, as long as it's accessible to the curb, we'll service it. So, but that doesn't mean all of our programs qualify for big buildings. We've had certain programs like food composting, which we don't serve with big buildings. We have the mattress programs, which we don't serve big buildings on. It's consistent with the way things are done around the countries and other cities. A lot of them don't do big buildings at all, and we're kind of in between. We service on trash and recycling side, but some of the smaller programs we don't service big buildings.
Okay. I think that's probably my time for now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Braden. And I want to note we were joined a while back by Councillor Gabriela Coletta at District 1, also a co-sponsor of one of these dockets. President Flynn.
Thank you, Councillor Bach, and again, thank you to the panel for the important work you're doing. Can you tell us about the pilot composting program that is in effect in several neighborhoods? I know my family on where I live with my wife and kids, we're part of the pilot program in South Boston. But give us a little background on the pilot program citywide, what's working well, and what challenges we see so far.
So the pilot program began last August. We contracted a company to pick up curbside food composting. At the time, we rolled out in 2 increments of 5,000, but 10,000 total residents inside a pilot program. It was enrolled very quickly. It started to develop a wait list. There have been people on the wait list since last September because it enrolled so fast. The program has been very successful to date. It took, in the first 6 months, took 500 tons of food waste out of our trash stream and into the composting program. I think that's, very small, and the impact they can have over time as people, we get more people on board in the program. We get more people used to what they can food compost and things like that. The intention for the city was to expand that by 10,000 every year for the first 3 years of the program, for the pilot program. So we're anticipating on July 1st, we're going to be adding another 10,000 residents to equal 20,000 residents. Currently, we have somewhere about 6,000 to 7,000 on the wait list currently. So, so we'd be rolling all those people out sometime in the July to August timeframe of this year, and anybody else that would enroll to get us to the next 10,000 residents. So, those are the green bin programs you see curbside that they pick up on your day of trash.
Yeah, those are the small barrels about that size.
Yes.
Are rats or mice able to get in there?
We don't have any examples to date. As long as you're fastening, they come with little fasteners that they can't knock them over and thing. They work very well with mice and rodents. Now, it's only been 6 or 7 months. We've all seen these heavy-duty recycle bins that over time that animals can chew through, so we're watching that pretty closely. But we've seen no evidence yet that anything's gotten into any of these bins.
Okay, that's helpful, thanks. Thank you. As you know, I represent Chinatown, and we have unique challenges in that neighborhood on trash and illegal dumping as well. And there has to be in a lot of the neighborhood organizations are doing great work on this, but I think we have to go back to the basics and really educate residents and business owners, many restaurants, as you know, educating them, really educating everybody across the city about the proper way to take out a barrel, take out recycling, what to do, what not to do. I don't think we can assume that people know how to take out a barrel, what to put in a barrel, what to put in a trash bag. So my question is, the public awareness campaign has to be a critical part of that as well. Can you talk about how we're reaching more people? Many of them in my community don't speak English. They speak they speak Cantonese and Mandarin, but or Spanish. But what are we doing as it relates to educating residents across the city?
I'd say over the last year to year and a half, we've really picked up our public awareness campaigns. We hired a zero waste program manager, newly created position about a year and a half ago. Within that position, 3 zero waste coordinators report to that position, and they focused on public awareness campaigns. They're currently putting out the mattress materials. They're putting out recycling and trash guides in multi-languages, that they all go multi-language. They're getting both mailed out and posted to our website. We're rebuilding our website and our communication on that way. And a lot of it is about educating people on how to do things properly and how to set things out so we can kind of change behaviors over time. So I'd say the last year has been the most impactful Public Works has had in a long time for getting messaging out. I think we have a long way to go. I think we can certainly use more funding in that sense. Every time we send out a mailer citywide, it tends to cost us $50,000 to $70,000, so costs can be pretty significant. But we definitely have a plan. We definitely have a team working on it. And we're definitely looking for more feedback of what people kind of want to hear out there in terms of messaging. But we're building it up both in terms of mailers, multilingual, and online presence.
Would you continue to work with city councilors and mayor's office, ONS, in terms of some outreach, maybe in the near future, outreach on social media about this issue?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So I think that's a big part of it. We can't get the message out without your teams.
So I bring up Chinatown because it's a neighborhood, as we all know, in the middle of downtown Boston, surrounded by, the Bay Village is close to it. The Back Bay is very close to it. Beacon Hill is very close. The Leather District, the South End, Fort Point. So it's in the middle of probably at least a half a dozen neighborhoods at least. So what happens in Chinatown really impacts other neighborhoods as well. So what can we do and this is something I need to do a better job on as well. But what can we do in terms of working with the restaurants, teaching the restaurants how to take out their garbage, when to take out their garbage, where to put their garbage, when the truck will come by to pick up their garbage, whether it's recycling, whether it's trash, whether it's private or not. But I think we need a comprehensive strategy specifically on that neighborhood, not to disregard other neighborhoods, but the impact that this has a huge impact, I should say, on other neighborhoods as well. So I would really like us to focus time, energy, resources on this neighborhood. And I honestly think if we're able to make progress, it'll help other surrounding neighborhoods. What do you think?
So, I mean, I can definitely speak to it a little bit. My division is purely focused on residential trash. The environment department works on the corporate side, the commercial side of it. So there's a little bit, we do work together into things, but tightening up some of these trash ordinances on the way trash is put out, the times trash is put out, how it's put out. There's a lot of vague language out there. So it's hard for us to really enforce what needs to be enforced out there and how it's kind of set out and how it's labeled and what's the difference between commercial and residential and how they're commingling and things like that. So definitely looking at it from a council perspective on how the ordinances are written and possibly being updated would be a big benefit, not to us. I mean, John enforces commercial, but it would be a big benefit to us in residential, but also on the commercial end.
Could we as a group come up with a working group maybe on ways to deal with the trash from restaurants, from residents in Chinatown? Can we come up with that working group as over the next month or so and see how we're able to make some progress, see how resources could benefit us as we go into the budget season?
Without a doubt, I think it's a fantastic idea.
Absolutely.
Could I put you as the CEO of this working group?
Sure can.
Okay. But Councilor Block knows the budget well. She said you're not able to get a bump in your pay though. Okay.
No problem.
Okay. John, good to see you too, John.
Good to see you.
I remember reading a New York Times article maybe 2 months ago, it was front page of the New York Times, about what the city of New York is doing on pest control. I don't know if you saw that article. It's pretty interesting. And I know we talk often about this subject, but what are some of the, based on your research, what have you seen across the country, whether it's reading or visiting locations, what other cities are doing that might be helpful to Boston, and maybe we can use something as a pilot program?
I'm part of an IPM group put on by Cornell, where many cities, Seattle, New York, Philadelphia, DC, where we meet. We haven't met in a little while. The last one I think was during COVID, where we compare notes, and a lot of us are doing basically the same thing. We have slightly different challenges. New York is obviously much bigger. Dry ice was started here. It has been very successful. We've now been able to access it. We couldn't access it for a while. So currently we're doing about 240 to 360 pounds per week. Also the Borough RX was a good addition. About a year and a half ago we started to use that, which is carbon monoxide. Rodent activity in the city is driven by food. So I think that the focus on how we manage trash is really pest control. Our approach to pest control is integrated pest management. and the actual pest control of trapping and using pesticides or using stuff like dry ice is really the end part. We have to find ways to put controls into place to make the environment less supportive so rodents don't thrive. The reason why rodents, they're so well adapted to us, and in a city that's dense and we provide everything they need, food, water, and shelter, that is the challenge. So why we're on this panel together and focusing on trash and trash containment and managing food, what kind of barrels we have in parks, and how we educate folks on, no one wants to live with rats. And so how do we educate folks on the correct way to store their trash? And 311 has been incredible for us. It now goes directly to the handheld of our inspector. But if somebody doesn't call and report it, we don't know there's rodent activity. And sometimes they don't call until it's advanced. The problem is advanced. So our education material is in 6 languages. We work with neighborhood groups to send out digital copies. We fly in neighborhoods where we see increase in activity. And then we'll continue. Our next meeting with that IPM group is around strategies in the sewer system and how different cities are approaching rodent activity in the sewers.
When's that next meeting, John?
It's not scheduled yet, but I will let you know.
Yeah, let me know. I'd like to go on it.
Yeah, I think I did the initial one. I invited you to, but I will send that information.
Yeah, thank you, and I'll wait till the next round to ask further questions. Thank you, Councilor Bach.
Thank you, President Flynn, and I want to note we've also been joined by Councillor Rusi Lujan, another co-sponsor here. I am going to go next to Councillor Murphy. Although not a co-sponsor, she was the first person here, including ahead of me a while back. So Councillor Murphy, and then Councillor Coletta, and then Councillor Lujan.
Thank you. Thank you. I do just want to start off by thanking the panel for being so knowledgeable and honest. It's a breath of fresh air, and it's helpful for us to just get the answers that we're asking. And a few thoughts and then 2 specific questions. I held a summer youth jobs hearing a couple weeks ago, and one of the things we talked about there is how do we get kids to know that these jobs are there. There's 7,000 jobs. They often go half unfilled. And we were talking about in the past, they've put posters like on buses or, billboards, and the cost you said, and I think it's important to also mail it, even though it's a large cost in different languages, but have we thought about putting some like posters or kind of doing an ad campaign that way also? Maybe just an idea of not just the mailers, but different ways to really advertise that the city is kind of.
Yeah, we did a recycling campaign. You still probably see some of the billboards that still exist in the city with, Wally the Green Monster and recycling and some of the ducklings. Yeah. So we did some of that. It's just been building up our budget and getting more resources that are allowing us to and build out our complete team. We're putting on our 3rd zero waste coordinator this month. So it's been a build up of building out these teams and getting these resources in play, which the city council has approved through the budget process over the last year and a half. And we're very grateful for it too. So we're definitely working towards many avenues of more mass education for recycling and trash programs.
Awesome, yeah. I am one of the 7,000 people on that waiting list for the green compost bin. So hopefully this summer, I heard you say maybe they'll be rolling out a couple.
Yeah, the first, we will have, I think it's a 2-phase, July 1st, awesome. 5,000, August 1st rollout,
the remainder.
5,000 more.
Okay, awesome. You mentioned the neighborhoods that are containerized and non-containerized. I'm assuming it's because if they don't have driveways or backyards to store barrels, but then you mentioned that landlords aren't, or homeowners I assume also aren't required to have barrels. So how do we separate? Could you just go down which neighborhoods are those and how do you determine?
There is no requirement for containerization.
Anywhere.
So it's just the neighborhoods that have the ability to store the barrels that are most likely to containerize.
Okay, so you're just basing it, like I said, on if you have a yard or a driveway to store it. Yeah, okay. And the last question is related to the budget, or really a comment. If you can share kind of a few specifics on how we can support you through the budget. You've mentioned, you know, money for the mailers or adding more staff, or what specifics do you think? And you've also mentioned, how can we be helpful in making sure this contract you're writing is strong? Because you said the stronger you can write the contract, we can close some of these loopholes that we see with ordinances and being able to enforce kind of this common sense that a lot of us feel like, why can't we do this? So if you could maybe share out a few ideas any of you have to, during the budget season, how we can be very specifically helpful and not just say, oh, let's give them more money because we don't like rats, you know.
Yeah, I mean, definitely through educational initiatives to expand marketing type dollars that we can increase our like outreach and things like that to all residents every time and more frequently whenever all these programs types of exist we can add. Last year we added a few of these green jobs which became zero waste coordinators, which have been extremely helpful in continuing this. We can push to further advance the food composting pilot. We're going to 20,000 residents next year. We're, you know, as we kind of further advance that, we get more people signed up and get those initiatives rolling. That certainly is helpful. And as you mentioned, really strongly we're looking at our trash contracts, which we'll be working probably in unison, especially if we build out this task force with the city council. But you know, also the ordinances that exist with it. Council Finn referenced some of the programs that have been going in New York in the last thing. And one of the things they did is they don't allow trash to be curbside the night before if it's not containerized. Mm-hmm. It can go out on the curb the night before, but it has to be containerized. Yep. So that's an ordinance they wrote that's a huge step in the right direction in terms of helping rodent control. So those types of things and those types of initiatives make all the difference in the world.
If I could just say something, the state sanitary code, if you do store trash, you're required to provide enough storage for that trash. So in a neighborhood where somebody has a driveway or it's a 3-family, you would have to provide enough barrels for that trash to be stored outside, unless you're keeping it in your home. So it has to have a tight-fitting lid, waterproof and rodent-proof.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Coletta? Wait a second. It's coming. It's because we have too many on.
Oh, that's fine. Good morning, everybody. I apologize for being late. I was listening in, though, so thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your work. I have a lot of questions, so I'm not going to dive into an opening statement or anything like that. What I will just say is that my neighborhoods, East Boston, Charlestown, and the North End, and part of the downtown area. High density, we all know this, it's a perennial issue. I do have one message though from a North End constituent who I was talking to. She wanted me to just say that they have rats as big as moose in the North End. So I wanted to put that here on the floor. I promised her I would. So this is an issue, and this is a priority that my constituents bring to me every single day. I would say we get the most calls about trash. East Boston in particular is riddled with debris and trash, and we know that pests and trash, it's a symbiotic relationship, so that's why I'm bringing it up, and it is the crux of this, this conversation. So I have a few questions just about the trash contracts. I love the idea of, in these high density neighborhoods, being really intentional in closing that time window, especially in the North End, where if you do put out trash in the North End, we don't have places to have containers. Folks are living like this in, like I said, very high density neighborhoods, and so they're putting them out just in trash bags, and so the rats are having a frenzy with that organic waste that we discussed at a hearing earlier this year. So I would love to see a shift in that time window for the North End and downtown in particular. But for the trash contracts, and I came in late to this conversation, so apologies if this was already mentioned, in 2020, DPW hired a position to scrutinize the contracts with an eye of how they can be modified or even broken up into multiple contracts to allow for more customized approaches. So I'm wondering what the outcomes of that was and how you intend to apply that to these upcoming trash contracts. And I know it was a question that was put forth by my council colleague Murphy. But what will we be doing differently this time around?
So we The only position I'm aware of that was looking at the trash contracts was a recent trash file that was posted in January that is still currently posted. We are trying to get through the hiring process and bringing somebody on board that's going to basically relook at these contracts and put a little different lens on it, a lens of less about lowest bidder winning these contracts and kind of skating through for 5 years and cutting resources and figuring out ways to do this cheaply, and more of along the lines of being, yes, fiscally responsible, but getting a service delivery and a quality service delivery that we expect. And that could be anything from shrinking, pickup times, trash on the curbs, making sure they're hitting neighborhoods in certain windows, redistricting certain neighborhoods, because often for efficiency, trash contractors will roll into one neighborhood, finish trash, and then they'll be in a second neighborhood in the afternoon and finish trash. So that's just the way they work. And just to relook at the way those things are done is to make sure Boston is getting its best service. Also to put more parameters of enforcement on them. When they do break down and they do skirt some of these rules and some of these expectations that we lay out, that we have measures to kind of enforce and hold them kind of accountable for what.
Do we not have any enforcement mechanisms
There's
now?
some in there, but they're a little bit vaguely and loosely written than I'd like to see. So
Who's the authority that carries out the enforcement right now?
that would be my waste reduction division. We have inspectors, but there is no actual fines tied to them and things like that. So it'd be writing better contracts to get a little bit more accountability from our contractors.
Okay. And historically, how many companies typically bid when you put trash contracts out?
It's usually 2 to 3. So
just 2 to 3.
Yeah, there's a different issue in terms of that, because the way that they're written now is very few contractors have wanted to come in and work inside Boston for many reasons, tight streets, traffic, navigating streets, a lot of those types of reasons, when they can go work in suburban districts and just kind of roll through the streets a lot easier. So it's been tough attracting quality trash contracts to the city.
Are we doing anything additional this time around to attract or incentivize other companies to submit a bid?
We'll begin to look at that through this trash fellow contract this summer. So we've reached out to some of our economic development people and alerted them to the fact that new contracts are coming and things like that. So, but it's not an area that's flourishing with these types of companies. Okay.
And I would just encourage to put in best practices as well when it comes to, and they have a tough job, and I know this, but what I get is that they don't put the trash barrel, they keep them in the middle of the street. I've seen it happen in East Boston on Saratoga Street. There's trash flowing everywhere, and I get it, you have to do this in a timely manner, but just best practices, if it's not already in there, I would encourage that. The other part of this is the Hokies and having enough resources to pay for more and to pay those who are doing this a livable wage. And so I'm wondering if there's been any practices to have a Hokie following a truck to pick up some of the debris that is on the street following trash pickup.
So the Hokies work completely independently from our unit. So they run out of the highway division and they focus on cleaning the streets. They don't have anything to do with the trash company, other than they'll be in those streets later on, usually probably focused around some areas where trash kind of came through. So in that particular neighborhood, but they work, that's the highway division, and they don't work with the waste reduction division. Okay. So totally separate.
I see this as an opportunity. We should get the Hokies linked up with your division, and or in the contract put that this company has to pay for Hokies to follow the trucks around. So I see that as an opportunity that maybe we can discuss during the budget cycle. Where can I find a copy of District 1's trash contract?
We can send it to you.
Okay. Is it publicly available?
It's not publicly.
Okay, that's why I couldn't find it.
Yep.
So thank you. I would love to have a copy of that just to have the most up-to-date information. The other part of this, so we talked about illegal dumping. That's something that occurs in my district quite a bit. How many cases have you seen for illegal dumping? How long does it take to rectify? You talked about an investigation. And how many staff members are assigned to the investigations for illegal dumping?
So I'd have to pull the numbers on how many cases we have for illegal dumpings. I can get that to you. We got 14 officers out in the street.
14.
Usually all our 3-1 cases are answered within 24 hours. So if somebody calls in a 311 case this morning for illegal dumping, one of my officers is there within a couple of hours.
Okay.
And then they'll start the investigation, see if they can find evidence of where the trash is coming from, and then issue the violation.
That's great. This is the first time that I'm hearing of this, so awesome. I love that, and I can tell my favorite friend on Chelsea Street that we'll get an officer out there to investigate because somebody drives up in front of her home, puts all of their trash in front of her house, and she gets the citation. And it's just not fair. So now I have...
If they happen to see your license plate or any information that they can pass to our offices, that's extremely helpful in cutting back on these people that are doing this. So.
Okay.
Yep, if they get a license plate, we can call over to transportation, run the license plate, and we can issue the violation to that vehicle.
That's excellent. Thank you.
The owner, actually.
In terms of rat abatement and pest abatement just in general, have you seen an uptick in a relationship between construction and development that's happening and rat activity? I get a lot of calls in my district just based on the sheer volume of development projects that are happening. And they're worried that the rats are coming from digging up the existing home that's there or wherever the proposal is or the project is rather. So have you seen a relationship between construction and rat activity in various neighborhoods?
So we see an increase in complaints around construction, not necessarily the activity. I think that folks believe that construction causes rodent activity. If there's rodent activity on the property and there's excavation, it could disturb what's already there. But we don't see it increasing the activity. We do see people frustrated with development sometimes, and they will call in regards to rats, or they think that the construction is responsible. But we don't. It's really trash and food is the main driver of rodent activity in the city.
Okay. That's it for me for this round, Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Councillor Coletta. Councillor Louis-Jean.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to my colleagues. I am very glad to be here with what I think is really an all-star team of folks working in the city to get at these issues that are sometimes feel larger than life. So I just want to thank, we've been out on calls with Director Blackmore, Superintendent Roach, Commissioner Ulrich. My office is really grateful for the understanding that your offices have that all of our residents, regardless of neighborhood, deserve to live in neighborhoods that affirm their dignity, right? Where it isn't trash strewn, where there aren't rats and rodents running around, and that you all are doing your job as best you can to really meet up and live up to that requirement. And there's more that we can be doing here on the city. So I'm glad to be a co-sponsor here on the order for hearing for trash contracts and procedures in the city of Boston. I'm already heartened by some of what I've heard here. And we know that, I always say this on my birthday last year, I was here in City Hall talking about rats in our city on a panel. There's no other way I'd rather spend my birthday, because when constituents, it's true, because when constituents call us and complain about these issues, if we're not getting these issues right, how can they trust us with the larger issues that we want to tackle? And so encouraged to hear that it sounds like, if I'm correct, that we are getting more dry ice as being as an important part of the solution, that with the pandemic sort of weaning out a lot of the rat burrows that were created as a result of the need to forage for food and for residents, that has been sort of, there are fewer rat burrows. Is that accurate?
So during COVID, the activity moved around. So it was the largest change in human behavior drastically shut down. So the food source was disrupted, and so we saw it move around. And so some of that activity might stay where it moved. Rodents usually won't travel more than 300 feet from their burrow. It's difficult to calculate what the rodent population is. There's not a really good way. We use measurements like 311 complaints, but those are just what people are complaining. And sometimes there's multiple complaints on one issue. So difficult to gauge the population, whether it's increased or decreased, but I think the dry ice has been incredibly successful. The last couple of months, we've been able to access 200 to 300 pounds per week mainly in the neighborhood parks, Boston Commons, public gardens. We've increased our sewer baiting, so areas where we know that activity increases or more complaints come in during the springtime. This is the time where people are out, so they see more, so they complain more. So we go into those neighborhoods where we're baiting sewers, whatever we can, writing violations.
Are we able to track like GPS data on rat calls or, predict migration in any sense?
So through like 311 calls, the analytics team, we have an analytics team at ISD and they are working on looking at the data. We're also tracking the baiting work that we do through a GIS mapping program. And so the hope is that we can start to look at that data from a bird's eye and it can guide some of our operation in the future.
Thank you. A question regarding, I believe, one of the things that I'm encouraged by, I've been working with my colleague and co-sponsor, Councilor Braden, on a scofflaw ordinance to hold our landlords more accountable. The work that we've done has been out in Mattapan and High Park about dumpsters and how the dumpsters have not been properly maintained. But just yesterday, after the late Mel King's wake, was walking around in the South End, and I was just looking at how, because of the lack of containerization, there was just really trash strewn everywhere in the street. And I know this is something that our downtown neighborhoods deal with all the time. So I'd love to take a look at that, seeing what we can do to model after what New York has done to to possibly ban putting out trash if it's not containerized the night before. How big of an impact do you think that will have on the rat issue that we're seeing?
Anytime that we can reduce the access to food for rodents, like I said before, the integrated pest management approach is the best approach, and putting controls in that reduce the things that create the supportive environment. Food is the main driver of this. So if we find ways to reduce trash, containerize it, that is where we'll be most successful in reducing rodent population.
Another question, I think I've talked to you about this before, but about requiring landlords that have above a certain number of units to do an additional pickup a week as a way to deal with the dumpster overflows or the strewn trash or issues of that nature. Just would like to get your thoughts on that additional requirement.
So they're required to be able to store trash with tight-fitting lids. If they don't have a place to store extra barrels or an additional dumpster, then they're required to get an additional pickup. So, for example, the Tennis Road, we've made them add dumpsters and get additional pickups. So they get one city pickup. And so the requirement is that they have enough storage, and if they don't have enough storage, they have to get an additional pickup.
But the only way that we come to know of whether they have enough storage or not is really through complaints?
Complaints and, yeah.
Okay.
So we would respond to the complaint, write the violation. If we went back multiple times and it's consistently overflowing and they don't have trash, enough storage for trash, they don't have any place to add totes or additional barrels or dumpsters, then we would require it in our violation for them to get an additional pickup.
And are we doing that enough, do you think, given the size of the problem? Are there ways for us to be more proactive about that, or are we getting enough?
I believe we are when we come across the issue. Sometimes our cases, if the landlords don't correct the violation, which that would be the violation, it takes a while for it to get in front of a judge and for us to get the court order.
I'm a bit worried about the disaffected constituent who doesn't have, after maybe decades or years of neglect. Think about our black and brown neighborhoods where 311 complaints aren't being made as frequently about issues like dumpster overflow. So those are where I'm worried about other ways and opportunities. My office, we can do as much as we can. We're an office of 4 people, and myself was worried about what we can be doing more proactively and not just relying on, and I don't say this, I know that you all work incredibly hard but are there ways for us to be more proactive about landlords that should be doing more pickups?
Okay, can I just add so when I spoke earlier to expanding our waste reduction unit, I spoke to that we hiring 3 zero waste coordinators, 2 of which are already hired, 1 which we'll be bringing on this month. That third one is focused on big building policy and big building education. So I think a lot of these things you're talking to now are things that we're going to be exploring and researching, and probably coming back to the council with some suggested ways to make improvements to big buildings. Through whether it be ordinances or some rules and regulations. But one of the first things is to create a big building webpage that has a lot of these things spelled out really easily for big buildings, for property managers, for landlords, and then see where we're a little bit deficient in ways we can improve services to big buildings, and look at some big best practices nationally to see if there's jurisdictions that say, like, if you have over so many units, you need 2 pickups a week and things like that. So it's definitely going to be a focus on a position in my office over the next 2 months. Thank you.
And I know Councilor Bach and I have talked, and I believe she filed a hearing order to talk about looking at the Article 80 process to potentially new developments what require, back in the days, the indoor shoots. Do we revert to something of that nature? Councilor Bach, do I have time for 2 more questions, briefly?
If they're quick, yes.
Okay. The first question is, and maybe this is just a comment, because I know in this hearing order that Councilor Bach and I, and forgive me, I forget who the third co-sponsor on this is, that with these trash contracts, we're looking at the potential to break them down, to make them actually more competitive for MWBEs, business owned by people of color and women. Just thinking about the opportunities that exist around that, and if we know of any companies that are either exist or on the pipeline that could be competitive to get some of these contracts.
So we will do that over the next couple of months in the trash fill procedure, where we're looking at smaller portions of contracts, whether that be potentially breaking off yard waste. Yard waste is now part of the major trash contract. They kind of do it on the side. Could that be its own separate contract that we can attract an MWBE type business or a smaller contractor to come in and take that on and build their base up where they can eventually compete with these contractors over time? There's certainly smaller contracts like city agencies like BPS, police and fire, trash services, BHA, that we will look at to see if we can break those aside and create more competition for smaller type contractors to win them, and eventually they grow their business where they could be competitors of some of these larger companies, which seem to be going away around the city of Boston. So.
Awesome. I think that'd be especially great. I participate in the composting program right now, and I think it's excellent. And this idea of sort of like browning the green industry, of making sure that we're making it accessible to Black and brown folks and industries. And my last question may be more of a comment. And I know that when we're thinking about these issues, we always are thinking about what government can do, and I think we should really be doing that. But I want to give a shout out to a constituent who is in the House who also talks about what we can do. Constituents also want to help us solve this problem. Either, I know that we do love your block, but if there are other opportunities for us to support beautification programs and projects, like how do we look at, and how do you see constituents as being part of the solution of ensuring that our neighborhoods are beautiful and dignified and clean, and how can we further support sort of neighborhood beautification projects? And that's a particular shout out to Bob Binney, who brought this up at a COCO with the council we had in Beacon Hill. So I just wanted to put that on the floor and for us to think about how we integrate our constituents into being problem solvers in this area better.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of overall, I mean, just getting constituents to be bigger participants in some of the programs we're running, and some through no fault of their own, as we're only rolling out food compost programs in small batches. But just being users of this type of material, we got to get more of this compost that we create into the hands of certain constituents to use in their home gardens, their home areas, and things like that. So we just got to find better ways to connect our constituents to some of the programs that we're doing.
Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair, for indulging my questions. I really appreciate all the work that you do on behalf of our city and our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Louis-Jean. And I am going to allow just a moment of virtual public testimony, because we have a constituent who's been waiting and has to perform dental surgery in 10 minutes. So we're going to let her join us. But I do know that I think the issue she's going to raise is one that I was going to ask about in my second round, which is, and I know it's separate from the residential trash contracts, but in a lot of our mixed use districts, we have a lot of folks really suffering from the kind of like chaos of the commercial trash pickups, and especially like overnight. You know, we've got blocks in my district that have like 5-6 trucks running through them overnight, and it's incredibly disruptive. And that's something that, you know, I know my partner up at the State House, Jay Livingstone, has looked at filing something on the state side to sort of let us regulate that more, but would love to, after she gives her testimony, you know, come to you guys just a little bit on thinking through that. But first I want to go to Dr. Valerie Smith. Valerie, we see you. You have the floor. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I prepared a statement. Nearly every night, say 25 times in a month, I am awakened by trash trucks picking up Newbury Street trash between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. The noise they make is usually 55 to 75 decibels. Yes, I bought a decibel meter, and that's with the windows closed. Yesterday, the trash was picked up at 4:40 a.m. This clearly violates the City of Boston's noise statute and is extremely disturbing to my quality of life. The noise from the trucks reverberates between the brick walls lining the alleys. Imagine being sound asleep and the 70 decibel air brake releases multiple times outside your window, or the sound of trash being compacted and the barrels being banged against the truck, which often takes 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes I'm afraid that I will fall asleep at the wheel driving to work in the suburbs because I was awakened multiple times by trash trucks. Quite often a truck will come by at midnight, and then a truck for another business will come by at 3:30 in the morning, so it's not possible to get restorative sleep. When one exits the Star Drive exit for Copley Square, there's a sign on Beacon Street at Arlington that says no trucks between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. I assume the reason for the sign is to minimize truck noise so as to not wake the taxpayers up. I propose that a similar sign be placed at the entrance to each alley in Back Bay and that the noise statute be enforced, and that businesses keep trash inside until 7 a.m. like my residential building does. I see rats almost every day in Back Bay and Fenway. All I have to do is look out the window. I see rats during the day. When I come home from dinner, rats run past my feet as I enter my building. My building has videotaped a rat going after someone's Grubhub delivery on the front step. The rat population is thriving. Having trash picked up at 3 a.m. does not seem to reduce the rat problem. It appears that more could be done than occasionally baiting the area. I believe that there's a large rat barrow under the intersection of Gloucester Street and Public Alley 431. Every time I start a 311 report, it's immediately closed saying area being monitored or we'll bait the area again. But I shouldn't see rats every day. Please restrict these rats from coming down the alleys in the middle of the night and step up the rat mitigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith, and best of luck for the surgery.
Okay.
And while we have the virtual up, I'll take David Stein as well, because he's the only other person I think coming in virtually. Ethan, if that's possible. There we go. Mr. Stein, you have the floor. If you can hear me. All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I just have to change the view, if you bear with me, to look at my notes. I'll speak without notes. First of all, I want to thank you, Councillor Bach and Councillor Flynn. You have been very responsive to my letters, and I appreciate your engagement with this issue. I've also published some of these points that I'm about to make in the Globe. So I'm not going to spend this time reiterating the nature of the problem, which you all know so well, but rather ask some questions that I'm hoping you'll consider in your deliberation. Firstly, my question is having to do with the nature of this problem. Councillor Braden indicated at the outset that this is a perennial problem. I'm not sure why we're still dealing with this perennial problem today, it might be useful to understand the answer to that question so that the fixes that we propose are likely to succeed and not some of the same old attempts to address this problem. It also seems to me that based on a reading of the code and the regulations, that if we, notwithstanding the fact that we have 14 inspectional officers out on the street, that if we enforce the code, if people adhered to the code and fined for violations of the code, we would go a long way to solving this problem. If we simply got rid of the single-ply plastic bags that as everyone who has spoken earlier noted, are troughs for rats, I think we would go a long way to mitigating the rat problem. I'd also like to ask if this committee has interviewed some of the experts on trash collection in the city, and those people are the people who are actually working on the back of trash trucks. I live on Tremont Street. Now we have a bike lane. The trash trucks have to stop in the middle of the street, cross a lane of parked cars, a bike lane, to get to the sidewalk and make multiple trips at each stop to retrieve the trash. And I'm wondering if those men and women who collect the trash might have some ideas of their own, and perhaps we should think about talking with them. I also want to reference, Councilor Flynn made a reference to a New York Times article, which I too found, Councilor Flynn, very powerful. And one of the takeaways from that article was that New York City has someone who owns the trash problem. They have a commissioner who is the czar of trash. And I think one of the issues we face, and I think this testimony, this hearing is evidence of that, is that there is no single person who owns this problem. It's spread out among many people and many departments, and perhaps that's something this committee might consider. Lastly, I think that there are some best practices, not only across the country, but across the world. And I think it's probably time to figure out what those best practices are and implement them. I don't think it's enough simply to be part of discussions where best practices are talked about, but rather where they are embraced and implemented in our city. And finally, I'm wondering what we can expect, what citizens of Boston can expect in terms of improvement. Is there a dashboard that indicates the number of captured rats every day and the tonnage of trash that the Hokies don't have to pick up? Are there ways in which we can day-to-day measure our progress so that we're not back here next year with yet an ongoing perennial problem, having much the same discussion we're having now? I want to thank you all for your attentiveness to this issue. I know it's painstaking, and I know people are working hard to solve it, but as was stated in the outset, the problem seems to be getting worse, not better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. All right, I'm now going to do just a quick second round of questions from colleagues, and then we're going to go to the rest of the public testimony. We have a bunch of folks signed up in person, so I'll just ask colleagues to keep questions with a question mark and sort of focused so that we can get to the public. So I guess for me, a couple of things. One is I just wanted to pick up on this commercial trash issue, and I don't know, Dennis, if there's anything more that you can say on kind of, I mean, to me, I know we need some more power in order to be able to really regulate it, but I do think it's something where New York has tried forcing folks to at least coordinate, so like a bunch of commercial properties on the same alley block would all have one truck or something, and so it wouldn't just be this crazy catch as catch can. I don't know if you could speak a little bit to the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen how New York has tried to attack it and try to regulate the commercial side of things, and I think it is a good direction, at least a way to start. With how we think about Boston and how we let businesses come in. And I mean, we have, they're getting this because we have several commercial companies coming into the same alley each night in servicing. Everybody's opening their own account with whoever's providing the cheapest price and businesses wise. So New York's getting their hands around regulating that. I think that'd be a great model to look at for the city, I believe, as well. There probably is an opportunity somewhere too to start to look at. I know it's starting to take shape nationally with electric versus gas-powered vehicles and how that impacts noise. So I think the commercial side of things would be a good way to start and begin to regulate in that particular way. So I think those trucks are a lot quieter, and they are starting to take shape nationwide now that you're starting to see them.
Great, yeah, no, and I think, and just for folks who are watching, like I said, Rep. Jay Livingstone does have a bill related to this to sort of give us more regulatory authority, and I think there'll be a hearing on that in coming months, so we'll look for people to support. On the ordinance front, I know, John, you mentioned sort of the ordinance, but my impression is that the 5 p.m. rule is actually by virtue of regulation from the Public Works Commissioner. I don't think that 5 p.m. is written in. I'm asking this question because if there was a council ordinance that needed to change, I think we would want to know that. But my sense is that the actual on the books ordinance is pretty much sort of gives the power over to the Public Works Commission.
Yeah, I think the 5 p.m. put out time is Public Works Commissioner.
And is there anything that any of you think needs to be changed on the council ordinance level to enable better residential trash pickup and contract writing? Aside from, I heard you, Dennis, there's this question of big buildings, right? And there's this question both of what we make big buildings that are new, build into them. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's a huge frustration for us that I think the big buildings that don't use the city trash service don't actually have to have recycling. And so we have a bunch of big buildings in my district that don't recycle at all, so I think there's a whole conversation to be had about big buildings, but bracketing that for a second, in terms of the stuff we're talking about today, trash contract, is there any ordinance change that you need from the council?
I think that's something we can take a look at in the next week or two and really get back to you guys about what we can propose to you that would really help us into picking up trash better on the streets. So if you give us a little bit of time on that, we'll get back to you with some specifics.
Okay, yeah, that would be great to know. Because I know, I know that, it's come up that the state, I think it's the state sanitary code, right, that says trash has to be out the same day, and then we've obviously interpreted that as being a 24-hour period. But as you've heard me say, I would really love to go back to that being same day, especially if, especially when we talk about non-containerized trash. And so if there is an ordinance thing that needs to happen, I think folks know it won't be me writing it, but I have good friends here, and I think we can make, what we don't want is to hear that, the ideal contracts would be written this way, but because the city council hasn't passed something, we couldn't issue them that way, so we had to issue them a different way. You have a super majority of councilors who are sponsors just on these dockets today, right? People are very ready, I think, to be involved in making that happen. And then I think the one other thing that I wanted to raise, because Councillor Flynn asked you in real time about sort of Chinatown pilot stuff. I know that the last time we had you here, Dennis, we were talking about containerization pilot, particularly for some of our addresses in the Back Bay. We've got a place, where we've got a huge dumping problem on Charles Gate West. We've got a site on Marlborough that because of, it's sort of the one address that doesn't have an out back. And so it's really, and I think I'm really interested in how maybe in this coming fiscal year, we could work with the department to do some pilots in places where we have residents actively asking for it,
Yeah, I think we definitely have some zero waste coordinators out there that are looking nationally at some things to kind of try and replicate. We haven't found something that works particularly well in Boston. I think proactively we have asked for some money for a containerization pilot for next year, but we don't have a specific model in mind yet about what we want to build. We want to have that money in place as we find some type of solution for how unique Boston streets are.
Yeah, no, and I'm super excited about that money and that you guys have asked for it, and I think there's a real opportunity to kind of extend from those conversations we've been having and really try something. So yeah, so that's great. And then just one other question, sorry, John, on the rat burrow point. Dr. Smith brought it up. I feel like there are certain places where the public sort of can see that there's a rat burrow or thinks they can, or, I'm thinking right now of a fairly conspicuous one in Boston Common. I want people to know that I was involved in authorizing extra money for rat abatement in Boston Common recently through the Maintenance Trust. But I guess I'm just sort of curious, when when those get identified and then people feel like what they're seeing is that they persist, like, you know, how should we think about or understand what you guys are doing on that front?
So as far as Ms. Smith, I think what she's talking about might be private property, which we're not allowed to do any kind of treatment. We write an abatement, and the violation states that they have to get pest control and address the issue. As far as the Boston Commons, we're in there 3 times a week with the dry ice right now in the Borough RX. Commons is a challenging. The barrels, we're working with the Parks Department and looking at different kind of barrels. We've been successful, I think, in the public garden when they cap them. And it can just in a couple of days, the activity moves around. So call us, we identify it, we're in there 3 times a week at least. And if something gets bad, they should be caving them in once they treat them. And that's how we identify if the treatment worked. We go back in a couple of days. But they should call if they're not seeing what the challenge in the public alley, and I think I've seen the complaints come in from Ms. Smith, is that if we go there and we don't see activity and there is no violation, all we can do is monitor the area. So, there's a restaurant, I believe, behind her building that was an issue, that corrected their barrels, got new barrels, and so if the inspector goes out there and there is no violation at that time, then we really don't have an action to take.
Got it. Yeah, and I think probably it's worth following up. I want to stop because I asked folks to be brief, but you know, I think this question of when we do write for an abatement plan on the private side and something doesn't happen, and especially in some of the places where we have complex ownership arrangements, kind of like what our next step is to really make sure that people are dealing with that public health issue.
We're looking, we just started to look at an ordinance out of Chicago that would include a lien and give us the authority to actually do the abatement and then charge back in some kind of lien. So we just started to talk about that recently.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome. Okay, I'll go to colleagues. So Councillor Braden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're hearing lots of really good stuff this morning. I just want to clear up some confusion. Like, it seems that there's 2 things that we've heard this morning. One was that there's no requirement for 2 and 3 family units for the landlords to provide containers, and yet we also have that if you store trash, it has to have a tight-fitting lid that's waterproof. And I'm just going, like, we see so many of our rentals in Alston Brighton outside of the main big apartment buildings are those 2 and 3 family homes that are rented out to tenants, and that's where we see a lot of our issues, because they don't seem to understand that, and the landlords don't provide tight-fitting containers with lids, and it's just a mess. So is there a contradiction, or how can we clean that up?
So I believe the residents can put out a trash bag the night before trash if it falls within that, but to store trash has to be stored on the property. So for 3 units, if they weren't keeping their trash just in their kitchen, if they just produced 1 bag of trash, they could take that bag of trash and put it out on trash night. If they are storing trash on their property, it has to be, by the sanitary code, it has to be in a container with a tight-fitting lid that's waterproof and rodent-proof.
Yeah.
So that is a violation that we write if we go there and the trash is overflowing or there's holes in the barrels.
Yeah. And that's probably the rule. Like that's right. so common that it's pervasive, and we have difficulty, contacting absentee landlords and management companies to get. And I think this seems to be like a loophole, that there's no requirement for them to provide secure containers for, it's, what is it? Yeah, there was no requirement for 2 and 3 family homes to have secured containers.
It may be 2 family, it's the tenant's responsibility, and then 3 family is the landlord's responsibility.
Yeah, that seems like something we need to fix.
Right.
Yeah. And then, you know, in terms of our main streets and our areas where more commercial spaces, the barrel issue, you know, we have open top barrels that rodents can get in and out of very easily. There's a lot of, if it's a place where there's a lot of restaurants, there's a lot of fast food takeout containers, food's left, pizza, whatever is left in the, is there, you know, are we able to make our containers on the streets a little more secure, just as in the parks, like to make them more, rats are very inventive, so.
Right. I think that's public.
That's Public Works.
That's the Highway Division of Public Works, deals with, are you talking about city containers on
Yeah,
the street?
yeah.
Yeah. So that's the Highway Division. We are in communication, we're starting to reach out to all of departments to talk about barrels and storage of trash and their operations and how we can help educate and add some advice around rodent activity in the city.
And then, you know, I'm wondering about the effectiveness of big belly barrels. You know, are they actually rodent proof, or I've heard that
they are more rodent proof than many other barrels. The drums work well if they're covered. I believe the public garden now has drums with PVC caps on them. Those work really well. Big bellies. If they remain operating, I think sometimes they might have an issue breaking down, or there's an issue with the compactor inside, but it's a very good system to contain trash.
We're going to be piloting a program in the next couple of months, 2 months probably, from a company called CityBin, and we're going to use it for our Project Oscar food storage containers that you see around, food composting containers you see around the city, and they complain to be fully pest proof, including rodents. So they're used in other jurisdictions, other cities. Harvard uses them now. The city is about to buy, I believe, 6 of them to pilot and test them for our Project Oscar food composting program. But they could potentially become a solution for all kinds of city storage.
And I think, you know, the Project Oscar, we get calls frequently of folks who live in those units that are more than six units, and they really want to compost. They don't want to put their food out in the trash, and you know, having more accessible composting, food composting opportunities would be really helpful. Like I can't see us giving 6 little green barrels to every 6 unit building and having just dozens of these little barrels in the street. So any which way we could sort of up the availability of like community food composting in Project Oscar or some other container that would be more readily accessible for folks would be helpful as well. Not necessarily with every
The biggest
unit.
challenge so far with Project Oscar is finding the location for the bin.
Yeah, and I do know that I've had complaints from folks who live in public housing that this Project Oscar was a little close to their apartment. Not the most pleasant thing to have a Project Oscar food space, you know, 20 feet from your window. So, yeah, I can appreciate that as a challenge. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Braden. Councillor Flynn?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and again, thank you to the panel. I guess my questions are the following. So we don't necessarily have a pest control czar, though, do we, that oversees the overall operation of pest control?
Like across departments?
Yeah, across departments.
No, we don't.
Okay, but you do it, John, for pest control for your department?
For inspectional services, we also work with other departments. Boston Water and Sewer, we do the pest control in the sewers, and any other assisting BHA, really across the board. If there's rodent activity, they call us.
Okay. I would like to see having a department or agency or a working group. But, you know, taking all of the departments that are involved in pest control, such as yours, such as Public Works, such as Water and Sewer, the Environment Department, anyone that has anything at all to do with pest control, Parks Department, but have a senior person over that where your only responsibility is dealing with pest control. Maybe that's something we can discuss going forward.
We do have a meeting scheduled with multiple departments to talk about rodent control over across the city and how other departments are dealing with it and what we can do, coordination and communication.
Okay, thanks, John. I think one person mentioned, I don't know if it was on the video or not, but I actually saw it myself as a garbage truck was in the south end, or maybe it was in the Beacon Hill area. I forget. But there was parking. There was a bike lane, and then it was the garbage truck. The garbage truck's practically in the middle of the street, and so the garbage truck couldn't get to the sidewalk, basically. So the garbage man who's working very hard, very professional, he's like trying to go in between cars. He's trying to go in between the bikes. He's going over the bike lane area. And again, he's doing the best he can, and he's professional, but it's a recipe for disaster. Unfair, in my opinion, unfair to the maintenance man that has to do that type of work. We're setting him up for failure. Have you noticed that also?
We've definitely gotten more complaints from our trash contractor about scenarios like that. Trash just being, in general, harder to access.
Yeah.
We've gotten that. You know, I think it's slowed down our trash service in the city. Streets that are a little bit harder to navigate for trucks that size has definitely slowed it down. We're seeing later, finish times, that was we call it, in the industry, just because of just harder streets to navigate.
And I also seen the people behind the garbage truck, beeping at the guy, basically telling the guy to hurry up. He's doing the best he can, and someone's impatient, and they're giving the garbage guy a hard time. And it's putting stress on him and his job. He's working hard as it is. He doesn't need added stress, in my opinion. But those guys really do a great job under very difficult circumstances. So are you coming down to us as part of the budget process with anything unique that you want us to support? What can the city council do to support you? This is a critical issue impacting every district city council. Certainly the at-large city council is as well. We have a large group of residents here. But what is the next step in terms of what you're thinking about as it relates to the city budget?
I mean, in terms of, we submitted some money for like some containerization pilots. We certainly submitted some resources in terms of staffing and looking at, I know we're always looking for, more inspectors citywide. Councilor Coletta brought up a point earlier about, having Hokies full of trash trucks, which we haven't looked at yet, which I think is a decent idea to take a peek at. But we also have inspectors citywide that manage these trash contracts, and we'll usually often have one inspector that has served 2 different neighborhoods. So the resources are very thin in those instances. So we did put in a request for a couple more inspectors this year. So, but just in the last couple of years, just your commitment to adding green jobs to the budget has been huge. It's created a zero waste program manager and 3 zero waste coordinators, which are now focused on educational initiatives, big buildings, all these types of programs. That support came from the council and was huge in letting us advance towards these things. So that, the continued support of our food composting program, we have proposals on the table to create a neighborhood charm, which is a hard to recycle facility that the city will be looking at to recycle all types of things from hazardous waste to e-waste to reuse type items, things like that. So we're looking at properties for that, which we've put in our particular budget. And we're looking at more support, probably regionally, about how and where we deliver food compost. So there's all kinds of initiatives that have been put into the budget for those types of programs that we'd obviously appreciate support on.
Thank you. The recycling, the cost for recycling in the city, the budget that we're contracting out is almost as high now as the traditional garbage. Is that?
It's higher.
It's higher.
It's higher, yeah. So it's traditionally the last year or two, trash is about $92 a ton. Recycling fluctuates. It's month to month. It got as high as $135 a ton. It's settled in right now between we're at $110 to $115 a ton to recycle. Those numbers are constantly moving. A year and a half ago, we were at $40 a ton for recycling. It all depends on the end markets and what the opportunity is to resell these materials.
And I asked that, knowing I support compost, and again, my wife and I are part of the pilot program, so we support the program. It does work, but we also have to acknowledge as we continue to advance the composting program citywide, eventually, hopefully everyone at some point is participating, is doing composting. That will be another huge cost for the taxpayers as well.
Yeah, as you reach higher density with composting, it not only takes those materials out of the particular trash bins, which are causing the eroding problem, but it also will save us money in terms of cost of that money out of the trash materials. So yes.
So we'll likely have 3 different trucks. Is that right? The recycling truck, the traditional garbage truck, and the composting guy, right? Mm-hmm. Three different trucks on the street, citywide eventually.
Yeah, and I mean, across the country, they're looking at ways of consolidating certain trucks and figuring out how can materials coexist in trucks. One of the advances they've made is how to combine yard waste with food waste, and they're trying things in different areas, and we're closely monitoring how to do that to take more trucks off the street and keeping materials together and commingled in that particular way. But yes, every time you ban a material, we now have a mattress truck out. There's 2 mattress trucks out in the street every day. We have textile trucks out in the street picking up textile boxes. So it does add truck volume to the streets.
I think I'm out of time to ask more questions. I see the chair there with the gavel, so I'm gonna stop right now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council President Flynn, and thank you for your relentless advocacy on these issues. I should also say that on the composting pilot, this is a council of haves and have-nots. You know, Councilor Flynn is in the pilot. I think Councilor Lou Jen said that she's in the pilot. I am stuck on, okay, Councilor Braden is in the pilot. I am stuck on the wait list for the pilot. Councilor Murphy is stuck on the wait list for the pilot. So, I just want to put that on the record. Okay, she's a constituent. So. Okay, Councilor Coletta.
Thank you, Chair. Even though you won't be with us to help craft this ordinance, I know that I will be calling you frequently for all things rats and trash for VHA properties. So congratulations again. Okay, I'm going to dive deeper into the contracts a little bit. The fines we had mentioned were something that is of interest to all of you. What would be the vehicle in which we institute that hook? Is it the contract? Do we have to put that into a separate ordinance? And how much money are you thinking that will be especially painful for bad actors who do not abide by what is in there?
Are we talking about fines for a particular trash contractor to perform?
Yes, exactly.
So that would go inside the contract, and we would definitely be looking at national best practices for how to institute those particular fines and what dollar amounts that are effective nationally, and that's part of the trash fellow. That's why we're getting a trash fellow on board. They're going to look at some national best practices, how other jurisdictions are making sure that their contractors are in compliance and following the rules and regulations and things like that. So that's one of the roles of this trash fellow, is to look at all that and how we implement it during the next phase of contracts.
Okay, and we echo my colleagues just trying to get that job description and job position out there just to get the ball rolling on that. So happy to assist in that way. I'm happy that you underscored the hokey idea. I do think that, again, there is an opportunity here to get them to pay for it too. And so my question is, because you had mentioned earlier that you're going to be putting this out to bid in November 2023. Is there an opportunity for some collaboration with the council to review it, to work with you on it before it goes out to bid, just to make sure that some of these things that we're talking about is actually in there?
Absolutely. Part of this trash fellow is to work with all stakeholders, is to come in, begin to work with all stakeholders, whether it be neighborhood services, whether it be residents, whether it be the city council, but to really get a general sense of what everybody's seeing, hearing out there, as we look at national best practice models and combine all of that and get the best particular trash contract we can get out the street next November.
Okay, great, thank you. Something that I don't think has been brought up is just the public trash barrels that are across the city. We have them in the north end. We have 2 million visitors. They usually are heavily used and overflowing. I know in East Boston I have folks calling for more trash barrels. So something that you did not bring up when we were talking about your budget asks or certain things that we can help with the budget were these trash barrels. So do you have a budget for instituting or installing more of these barrels across the city of Boston?
So the reason that we didn't bring it up is nobody in the panel manages those. That's managed out of our city highway division.
Okay.
So that would be their ask, and I don't know what they've submitted to the budget for their ask, but we can get you that information.
Okay, thank you. And I do want to uplift my colleague's comment, Councillor Braden, about the BPDA and formalizing a partnership with them. Right now in East Boston and in Charlestown, we're going through a master plan where we're thinking about how we can grow and grow responsibly. And so part of my job is thinking about how this growth, not only just with housing, but with office and workspace, how it will impact our infrastructure, our roads, our transit system, our park space, all the way down to water and sewer, and then city services, which is trash pickup. And so I'm wondering if you've been involved in these conversations with the BPDA and how we weave your perspective in as we're thinking about our growth in our city, how we're going to integrate city services and trash pickups for an additional number of people coming into our communities.
We've had very, very little interaction with the BTA on those particular topics. We have pushed up after our last conversation in this room about getting more involvement with the BPDA, but we haven't really had those particular conversations and things like that. We often see these buildings, they open up citywide, and they're opening up weekly, these new big brand new buildings that seem to have little or no thought to trash before when they're implemented, where the trash rooms are the afterthought. They're in the back of the building. Mm-hmm. They're not accessible. They're not they're not properly storage. They're not, and we have trash trucks that have a difficult time getting to them. Often takes 2 or 3 different going back to the building 2 or 3 different times a day, which just continues to slow trash pickup in the city. So I think working with the BPDA and making this a big part of the process about how city services delivered to these buildings would be a huge step in the right direction.
Right. I mean, it is a fair concern that residents are coming to me and asking, have we even thought about trash pickup? We're thinking about everything else, but if we're going to be growing, we need to make sure that we're looping you into everything. So
I will give credit to the BHA who's come to us, and they are working on a pilot that was money that we asked for, actually more of a study about how waste reduction is handled in BHA units, and they accessed some money that was given to us through the council to advertise for a particular study in BHA facilities.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Okay, I think that's it for me. I want to thank you all so much for being here and thank you for your work. I look forward to these future conversations and potentially calling you about individual caseloads, which you all are very responsive and excellent in terms of your customer service, if you will, for constituents. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coletta. I'm going down to Councillor Louis Jen, and then I'm going to jump to public testimony. So just so folks know, the first 4 names on my list are Karen Clark, Megan Aw, Nancy Morris-Rowe, and Elliot Laffer. Councillor Louis Jen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Councillor Bach. I think you asked one of my questions regarding the ordinance, which we believe, is limiting, and so I look forward to the new staffers coming on and sort of working with the council to think about how we can update that. Just a question about whether and it sounds like we don't, but correct me if we do, that we don't have a public-facing waste management plan for the city of Boston that could be helpful to getting more, to engaging residents, constituents, and academic institutions, other institutions to helping us find solutions. Like, is there potential value in having a public-facing waste management plan that we can all sort of look at, buy into, figure out where we see ourselves?
So, I failed to mention that earlier, but we did submit a budget request. I think it was $500,000 for a zero waste master plan for going forward. Those are usually 20-year plans. that a municipality will set forth. So we did ask for that in this year's budget.
And I think that's great. I take the zero waste management plan to be sort of visioning sort of how we get to the green future that we all see, and I think it's great to do that visioning. But what about like a more immediate public facing?
That's what I was talking about.
Okay.
Not the zero waste plan that the city did. I think it was 2017 now. But more of a municipal waste, solid waste plan for the city of Boston.
Okay, thank you. That will be my that will be my only question for this moment. I know that folks have been waiting to give public testimony, so I want to turn to them and just look forward to being in deep partnership with all of you and Councilor Bach, even as she sheds her councilor role. So thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Councilor Lujan. And yes, now I want to go to those public testifiers. So I'll ask for folks, when you come to do public testimony, if you can just come up to either one of these mics on the side. If you can make sure that you speak into the mic, so it means leaning into it a little bit, just because even though we can hear you in the room, if you don't speak into it, the people watching on the live stream can't hear you. And if you just limit your comments to a few minutes and describe what neighborhood you live in or what organization you're affiliated with, et cetera, that would be fantastic. The only other thing that I meant to say just before we go to public testimony is that it was alluded to a few times, but the council's also been quite supportive in the ARPA process of funding for that kind of back-end compost infrastructure as we grow the composting program so that we can actually process, because I think we're currently using just about all the composting capacity in the region just with the start of the pilot. So we're building that, and then the CHARM that was mentioned, the Center for Hard to Recycle Materials, is something that the council also put ARPA dollars into. So I just want to flag that I think and of course those zero waste employees. So I do think there's been really good collaboration and we just really appreciate the department being so kind of open about, the opportunities. And I think the main thing is that we just really don't want to miss the opportunity with the trash contract to get something as well tailored to our needs as possible. So thank you guys so much. All right, so Karen Clark and then Megan Ah. Karen, if you want to just come up to the standing mic over there. Yes, it's the standing one right there. Oh yeah, if Megan can take those. Sorry, we're not supposed to have folks on the floor. Sorry, these are the antiquated rules, but yeah, Megan will pass those out to counselors, and if you just speak from the mic, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
Wait 1 second.
Oh.
By pulling Megan off, I need the mic. Oh, it is on? Is it on? Can you speak again? Just
Hello?
into the...
Can you hear me?
Just let's go a little closer to it.
Okay, yeah, here?
Yeah, that's
I think
better.
it's on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity to testify. I've never done this before. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I've learned a lot. And I can see from all the professionals here, it's a very complicated issue, and I'm frankly quite encouraged by everything I'm hearing, and thank you for all that you're doing. And I agree with a lot of the solutions that we've talked about. Two main ones of we need proper containers, and we also need to change the time when residents can put the garbage out if they're going to put it in plastic bags. However, I have a separate issue to bring up, which has not really been discussed, and that is residents putting out trash in inappropriate containers. We seem to be assuming that they're going in plastic bags, but they're not. And also putting trash out any time of day. Okay, I'm an expert in Fairfield Street, so I have a little photo journey here, the 3 blocks between Beacon Street and Boylston Street. And there are 3 public alleys there, and any day of the week and any time of the day, you can see in those alleys trash put out in inappropriate containers. So it's really, by changing the time, we're not helping to make sure trash is in the appropriate containers. So if you could just go, there are a lot of photos here, but just to 6 and 7, please, I can describe the containers that people are putting their trash out in. Paper bags, that seems to be a very popular one. Open paper bags that, of course, fill boxes. Boxes are everywhere. And open boxes where people will just throw things into the boxes. And of course, cardboard, just pieces of cardboard just thrown out in the alley. And so on 6, I asked you, is this an appropriate way? And this is not community dumping. I don't think people are driving in from the suburbs to dump a paper bag here. And then you can see what happens to Fairfield Street. This is what it looks like. The sidewalks, when the wind blows in Boston, which it always does, this is what the streets and the sidewalks look like. If you just flip now to page 8 and 9, this is a question. Is this what you're seeing here before or after trash pickup? It's hard to tell because there is a mess in the street, but there are also, again, bags set out like McDonald's, fries, boxes, just trash. And I think one of the problems is, trash begets trash. If there's trash in the alley, people walking by say, oh, this is just a little trash bin. Let me just throw my trash here. Particularly my favorite here is in the bottom of 9. If you look at slide 9 on the right, the little green bags there, those are little doggy poop bags. I love now how, and I caught someone dumping one once. So it's like, again, trash begets trash. So we just have people dumping trash really anywhere. If you go to 10, you won't believe that this is actually in Back Bay to see what it looked like after trash day. On 11, you can see the public alley 442. Any time of day, any day of the week, you will see trash bags piled up. And you can see how they pile up day by day. Finally, before trash day, trash won't be in any container. It'll be dumped on top. And if you look at slide 12, you'll see what that looks like in preparation for the trash people to pick up. And then on 13 is, again, my favorite, all the boxes. Boxes are everywhere. People are just throwing their boxes out on the alley. So it's concerning to me that residents, it's very disappointing that people who live in the Back Bay are basically not following the rules. I personally have submitted 42 311 violations over the past few months. Some of them come back saying it's not a violation, which it is. Some of them say they have issued the fines, but it doesn't seem to be helping because it just keeps getting worse. As I said, any day of the week, any time of day, you can see that. On 16, you can see people are now just putting it in the alley. On the sidewalk, so it's not even in the alley anymore. And this is me, I have to walk this twice a day, and this is what I'm seeing at my beautiful Back Bay as I'm walking to the office every morning. If you look at 19, you can see what the sidewalk looks like after trash pickup. So, and then finally 21 and 20 show you that, again, trash begets trash. There's one doggy poop poop bag there, now there are 5, now there are 6. And this is a half a block from the trash container in ComApp. So what's the solution? I've been thinking here, you have all these hard problems. How do we solve this? I think this is a very knotty problem. But one of the things I thought of is, President Flynn, you were talking about education. Are people, I don't think it's shocking to me that people in Back Bay have to be educated, that you don't drop your poop bags on the corner and you don't put your trash out in a paper bag. But unfortunately, it's not just in Chinatown. I think people, even in Back Bay, need to be educated on how to put the trash out. And how do we do that? Well, we need to do that. Maybe even, I'm thinking like signs on the corner of the alley saying, please do not dump your trash here. There is a proper receptacle, half a block away. But to me, again, you're doing all this hard work and you're making sure that and I've seen the Boston Public Works people picking up the trash, they are awesome. I mean, they really do a great job, but really, do we want our tax dollars to go to paying people to clean up after people who just really can't understand how to put the trash out. So hopefully we can educate our residents a little better, because even with all the changes that you're making, I don't see that solving Fairfield Street, because people just put it out whenever they want in, inappropriate containers. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you for all of the slides as well.
I wish I had a projector, then you could have seen, sorry.
No. Next up is Megan Ah, who's the chair of the Beacon Hill Civic Association, and then it's Nancy Morris Road, then Elliot Laffer, and then Deborah Holt. Megan, you have the floor.
Thanks. Thank you to City Councilors, specifically Councilors Bach and Flynn, for holding the hearing today on the trash and garbage contract and the rat mitigation issues. And thanks for the opportunity to voice our needs and concerns of our neighborhood and really participate in the trash process and the trash and recycling collection and sanitation. These issues dramatically impact daily quality of life on Beacon Hill. As you know, and was mentioned this morning, the current collection practice allows for residents to put trash and recycling out starting at 5 p.m. the night before for the 6 a.m. collection start. In many cases, as documented by photos and printed booklets, and submissions to 311, calls to our BHCA office, trash is often out on the sidewalk overnight and routinely for that full 24-hour period. By any reasonable standard, having trash out and obstructing sidewalks is unacceptable, and the result are many public health threats to the residents. The non-exhaustive aspects include accessibility and use of the sidewalks and general cleanliness, but of course providing a food source for the exploding and thriving rat population, as already described in the city. The BHCA has studied trash collection at length, and we understand the complicated logistical issues faced by the city. Beacon Hill is an extremely dense neighborhood, especially in the North Slope, and in the contract now, Beacon Hill is coupled with Charlestown and the North End and Roxbury, as we talked about a little bit briefly. We're acutely impacted in the same way the other neighborhoods are, specifically Charlestown and the North End. We're so dense. And briefly, in response to educating neighbors and getting communities more involved, the BHCA is very much focused on neighbors helping neighbors. It's our tagline. And we work really hard to bridge gaps and foster meaningful conversations and communication between officials and the residents, at least in our neighborhood. And I know all of the other civic organizations work to do the same thing. And so when we talk about educating neighbors in all of downtown, almost every neighborhood has a civic organization that's willing and eager to help in any way they can. We really look forward to further partnering and continuing our collaboration with the city to find a better balance with the collection zones and make sure that they're during daylight hours. And with respect to tip rates and total tons of trash collected throughout the city. We also are interested in, of course, the reduction of illegal trash dumps out on the streets and sidewalks, and the reduction of overall trash volume. The BHCA steadfastly supports the same-day pickup, so there is no trash out on the sidewalks overnight. Specifically, a 6 a.m. start time for putting trash out, with collection beginning no earlier than 9 o'clock in the morning. And again, trash should be out only during the daylight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Megan. Next up is Nancy Morris Road, then Elliot Laffer, then Deborah Holt, and then Diana Coldren. Nancy, you have the floor.
Hello there. Thank you both, Councilor Bach and Flynn, for holding this. Nancy Morris Rowe from Bay Village, and I'm going to be very brief. 10 years ago, I was here trying to get part of a group trying to get trash pickup reduced down to 2 from 3 days and to add a day of recycling, which was tremendous to get the trash off the streets 7 days a week. What I hoped was down to 2. Because 5 years ago, I was also part of a group that was pushing for a later drop-off time for trash, so residents were encouraged to put trash out the day of. Instead, we got a 5 p.m. to reiterate Beacon Hill, 5 p.m. the day before. So what I'm asking is for the City Council to consider please having same day put out the trash, and I also am encouraged to hear Beacon Hill say no earlier than 9 p.m. That way the residents will all be encouraged to put the trash out the same day. And I think we should have a budget for a trash czar going forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Nancy. Elliot Laffer, then Deborah Holt, Diana Coltrane, and then Bob Williams. Elliot is the chair of the Neighborhood Association of Back Bay. Elliot, you have the floor.
All right, you took my first line away. Thank you very much for having this hearing. I'm sure that Nancy meant 9 a.m. and not 9 p.m. to start the pickup. The 6 a.m. pickup is telling people to put their trash out the night before. It's not sort of kind of saying you can. How many people are going to be able to put it out to be the 6 a.m. pickup? Very few. Now, Back Bay is different than most neighborhoods. Our trash isn't picked up from the streets. It's picked up from the alleys behind our buildings. And for many of the second generation buildings, which are mostly corner buildings, those buildings go right out to the alley. And a pickup truck at 6 o'clock in the morning by your bedroom window is really an intrusion on time for people who don't have to be up at 6 o'clock to go to work. It's, and when it gets coupled, as happened in the, particularly the Newberry Commonwealth alley, where one side of the alley is commercial and one side of the alley is residential, with the unregulated pickup times of the commercial haulers, it can lead to 5, 6, 7 different trash trucks coming down an alley one night. We've had that problem. I happen to live in one of the buildings that does back up directly to an alley. And one of the residents in our building told me a story. Her husband is now suffering from Alzheimer's. He has a terrible time sleeping to begin with, and she has recorded as many as 7 different trash trucks over the course of the night. And that's just an impossible intrusion on quality of life. Now, I realize that the challenge is that the city doesn't have the right to regulate, but I think we need to find a way to get at this issue. The storage of trash from restaurants is, I think, something that we have to look at as well. We talk to them when they come in for new licenses, and we try and get indoor storage of trash. That's a challenge because they have to pay Back Bay rents for the space that they store their indoor trash in. But we push for it. If the city would push harder for it, we might have a better shot at accomplishing some of these objectives. It's a very, very difficult situation. Clearly, we don't want to have the kind of situation that was illustrated along Fairfield Street, which only proves that our neighborhood isn't exempt from any of the issues that happen in any other neighborhood. It's very hard, but please, if we can advance that truck start time to a later time, we'll have less, hopefully we can tell people they can't put their trash out the night before, and they'll have a reason to put it out on the day of, less of a banquet for the rats, and more of an opportunity for people to sleep. I think those are really, really important quality of life issues. This whole issue gets into the quality of life in the city, and that's something that I think is important to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elliot. Next up's Deborah Holt, then Diana Coltrane, then Bob Williams, then Steve Morgan. Deborah, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you for holding this hearing. Deborah Holt from Beacon Hill. As has been mentioned, a supportive environment for rats encompasses more than food. The building I live in on Beacon Hill provides both shelter and egress for rats. I live on the ground level and I hear them run through like a stampede. I hear them nesting in the walls. I hear the sound of babies. Remediation to rat-proof the building would be prohibitively expensive. Buildings are damaged by teeth sharpening as well as the vermin and feces they introduce. Rats utilize a subterranean network to get around. I rarely see them, but am reminded almost daily that I live with them. I think the city requires a more comprehensive program to address the subterranean rat network. As for containment, composting is the most encouraging development to contain food waste, and I'm an enthusiastic participant. But plastic, trash, and recycling bags are also part of the problem, as well as other previously mentioned non-sanctioned containment methods. But for buildings with 6 or less units, which are often walk-ups, I already hear folks complain that even moving compost bins up and down is a hardship. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Diana, and then Bob Williams, Steve Morgan, Barry Brown. Diana Coldren, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for holding this hearing. I think it's really important, and I've been here involved in the last, I guess, 2 contract hearings, so it's good to be back. And I feel like this time is different. It feels that including the stakeholders, it's really the first time I've heard that in many years, so I appreciate bringing everyone to the table to find a solution to this complex problem. Once again, my name is Diana Coldren. I've lived on Beacon Hill for over 2 decades, all over Beacon Hill, which has been a fortunate experience for my family. We know that rats can cause disease, psychological stress, and economic damage. It is well documented that one of the most effective ways, as we've discussed, is to reduce the amount of time that the food or trash is on the street. The recent dramatic increase in rat sightings, as evidenced by the 311 reports, has led to a decrease in overall quality of life in Boston and in Beacon Hill. Over the past 7 days, for example, over 180 pest complaints in Boston were open or closed on the 311 app. Reduced 311 reports of rodent sightings can be a helpful measurement of the success of any rat reduction program that the city chooses to take going forward. I'm here to advocate for 2 key issues. Number 1, for the 2024 trash contract to include provisions to reduce the amount of time that trash sits on the street and mandate same-day trash pickup, and a later pickup time than the current 6 a.m. Over 250 residents in Beacon Hill have signed a petition that I started on change.org that calls for an 8 a.m. same-day pickup, 8 a.m. placing the trash out as the earliest time. The second thing I'd like to advocate for is for trash and recycling to be picked up along our main street, which is Charles Street, first. Currently, trash and recycling can sit out on that street up until 4 p.m. some days. This street is bustling with visitors and residents and is a prime tourist destination. Tourists have recently commented to several store owners on the condition of the trash being left on the street and that they've had to step over it to make their way down the sidewalk. Analyzing the impact of policy changes in New York City may provide Boston with best practices that can be implemented with the next trash contract. It will be interesting to see how these new rules impact the rat issue in New York City. Beginning recently on April 1st, residents in New York can place their trash out in bags at 8 p.m., however, as early as 6 p.m. if they are using a container, with the goal of minimizing the amount of time on the trash on the street up to only 4 hours. I'm happy to hear that, once again, that all stakeholders will be involved. Please include the Beacon Hill Civic Association as a stakeholder. They are able to facilitate communication regarding quality of life issues to all Beacon Hill residents quite effectively. Thank you once again for organizing this public hearing and working together to improve the overall quality of life for residents in Boston and Beacon Hill. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Diana. Next up, Bob Williams from the South End Union Park, then Steve Morgan, also South End, Barry Brown, Back Bay, and then Ford Cavalieri from ADCO, but also the North End. Bob Williams.
Yeah, thank you for having us. I've been involved with the rodent problem in Boston for about 3 years now. You know, Councilor Flynn, we've met several times, and I think I would start by saying that I've heard a sense that, hey, the rat problem is getting a little bit better. We're not seeing as much as we did during COVID. And I would say that that's a dangerous thing to say because we've gone from the rat problem being a horrendous problem to the problem being a really bad problem. So it's not solved, it's not moving in the right direction. And over these 3 years, I've seen that the individual departments have done some really good things to incrementally improve how we're handling the rats, but the rats are winning. And I would advocate, just as several people are saying, to put a rat mitigation or a rodent mitigation czar, which includes garbage programs, trash programs as part of that, as being a way to look at this in a different way, not the way we've been looking at it in the past, but looking at it from a big bet perspective. As an example, for instance, in Union Park, we're going to roll out trash bins that the association is going to fund, and that's happening this spring. But there's 22% of the residences don't have space for barrels. So how do we handle that? And one of the big bets that I've discussed with inspectional services is, hey, what about underground systems, large above ground systems that require specialized trucks? And this is a great time to look at something like that, because as you're going out to bid, I understand it takes a long time to get involved with a very different way of looking at trash removal and storage. But it would be a great thing to be able to put into the bid process a way of looking at neighborhoods like Union Park, where it's 22% that can't utilize barrels, or the North End, who is probably 90% that can't utilize barrels. Is there a way to put these systems underground so that people are putting their trash bags in these large underground systems, as opposed to, setting the smorgasbord up for the rats themselves? And I understand, the first reaction from the departments are, we can't do that. Boston is a different kind of city. It's not like the Netherlands, where 100% of their trash is in underground receptacles. We have very, very small sidewalks. We have very dense populations, but there are ways of doing that. And having a czar in place that would look at researching what's being done in Europe, what's being done in New York City, et cetera, finding these best practices and digging in deeper than the individual departments can to do this differently. I would strongly recommend, budgeting for a czar to do that. I know also the departments are looking at smart traps. One of the things that we have seen in our neighborhood is that the companies that come out and do rodent traps are relatively ineffective. The traps aren't emptied quickly. The bait isn't replaced quickly. In many cases, residents are saying, hey, the rats are not taking the bait at all. So one of the companies out there, Modern Pest Control, that has these smart traps, and I know, John, you're probably talking with them, but it would be great to have a larger kind of program that says, hey, if we can take these smart traps and not just do a small implementation in the commons or the garden, or do this across neighborhoods and do this in a way that reduces the cost of it, and get smart traps out there so that we know exactly how many rats we're actually taking out of the system, so to speak, as opposed to just hoping that the bait traps are doing something in our neighborhoods. So, and I guess the last thing that I would say is that the communication between the City Council committee and the neighborhoods is very little, and I would ask that the City Council put something in place that allows for two-way communication between the neighborhoods and what the city is actually doing, so that this is more interactive than a meeting that might take place every 3 months or so, and look at a way to accelerate what we're doing against the rats as opposed to just doing incremental things. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Bob. So I'm going to read the remaining 6 names that I've got. If you're not on this list, then I don't have your sign up. So if you still want to sign up to testify, you can sign up on the sheet in the corner or remotely email megan.kavanagh@boston.gov. Again, that's megan.kavanagh @boston.gov. But what I've got is Steve Morgan, then Barry Brown, then Ford Cavalieri, then Mary Alice Sutherland, then Susan Buda, and then Sharon Durkin. Steve, you have the floor.
Thank you. I have nothing to say about Boston rats. We live in the South End. We bought a condo there in 2002, and then we moved from New Hampshire, where we lived for 42 years, in 2019. So we now live permanently across the street from the Boston Ballet. When I was in New Hampshire, I worked with the town we lived in for our recycling and trash, and then I worked with a 4-town district for their recycling and trash. So I have roughly 20 years background in dealing with recycling, and one of the reasons for being here is to offer my time, if it can be used either by the council or by the city. I think my background in recycling might be helpful. One of the things that we found in New Hampshire, which is recent, is that the change in plastic collection has been dramatic. They no longer will pick up all the plastic for recycling. The only thing that is getting recycled now are the bottles, like you see here, the 2 water bottles, the milk translucent containers, and there's one other category. We have source separation mostly in New Hampshire. Single stream absolutely ruined the recycling marketplace. But the number of towns have taken it on themselves that they're not picking up anything for recycling other than these bottles, and I'm talking plastic, other than these bottles and the translucent milk jugs. So I'm wondering if the city is looking at that as an opportunity, because as everyone knows, trying to recycle plastic is a losing proposition financially. So the second comment I would like to make is on composting. I tried to join the pilot for composting, and while people have said the little green bucket, in the sections where we live, it's a big green bucket. It's far too large for where we live. We'd have to take it up and down 2 and 3 flights of stairs. The little refrigerator bucket is too big for the little refrigerator we have. So we had it delivered and had to turn it back. And I've talked with Andrea Scarfo, about in wave 2, could you provide, like Bootstrap does, which we use, the 5-gallon bucket, which we have on our back deck. That's much easier to handle, and it's the kind of environment we live in. It's much more efficient than trying to lug a 12-gallon container up and down the stairs. And I think those were my only 2. Yeah. Okay. Oh, no, I'm sorry. One more thing. The motto has changed in New Hampshire. It is now, when in doubt, throw it out. people today, I don't know what the contamination rate is in Boston, but the contamination rate in recycling has been very, very high because people are putting everything in it and wish it gets recycled. Most plastic today is not recycled. It goes through the MRF. They throw out most everything, except I say there's a market for this and a market for the translucent jugs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. Barry, and then Ford, and then Mary Alice, and then Susan, and then Sharon. Barry Brown? There you are.
Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for the morning. It was incredibly educating to hear from the administrators as well as Councillor Flynn and Chair Bach. I want to say that what you've heard today is very crucial, I think, to the quality of life of all of us. I've come away with a few things that I hope the Council has heard as well. First, the regulations as they exist now were written a long time ago, and I think they need to be fine-tuned. Not that they're not well-intentioned, but for example, not only the responsibility of landlords, but the responsibility of boards and condominiums, the responsibility of cooperatives to the extent that they exist for taking charge of the trash problem. Same-day pickup times are, as noted, really important. Excuse me, but also the coordination of mixed commercial, restaurant, and residential environment. There needs to be some comments in the regulations, I think, about joint responsibility. Newbury Street has become a large restaurant, and folks who live behind it, who share the alley, obviously are dealing with that issue. The second thing that I've heard today is the need for a public education campaign. And I think that the City Council is in a wonderful position to actually go out front and advise folks in the city what they should be doing to help the trash problem. Signs in alleys are also important, but education in a population that's fluid, that changes each year, regular education is really important. I just returned from cities which have dealt with this problem, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Chicago, and they have restricted collection times. They have required hard containers. In Europe, they have containers that take up space at the end of alleys, not at each building. All of those I would hope that City Council considers. So again, I appreciate the efforts being taken by the committee. The problem where I live in the Back Bay is a daily problem. And while the streets are in wonderful shape, the alleys are not. And that has to be contributing significantly to the problem. Thank you very much, councilors.
Thank you so much, Barry. Ford Cavalieri, and then Mary Alice Sutherland, Susan Buda, and Sharon Durkin. Ford, you have the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Bach. And as you mentioned, I live in the North End, but I'm also the chair of the Alliance of Downtown Civic Organizations, which is an alliance between many of the folks who've already spoken on individual neighborhood issues. One of the things I'd like to do is reinforce what Back Bay and Beacon Hill and Bay Village and all of South End, all the other organizations have said, that there are specific neighborhood needs. A lot of it has to do with containerized versus non-containerized, but they go beyond that as well. And I do think that we need to be a little more careful about being granular at the neighborhood level. The other thing that, I was a little struck during all the testimony because the issue was worse than I thought. I'm struck by sort of the dysfunctional organization of the city regarding trash, and the fact that you seem to have silos of Parks Department taking care of theirs, BTD taking care of theirs, and commercial and residential trash being in sort of different silos as well. Council President Flynn mentioned that in Chinatown you'd like to see maybe a study and a working group where people talk about the connective tissue between some of these, and I think that that would be useful in many other neighborhoods as well. And I will just mention that because there are these silos, there's also a gaming that we've been seeing where people who should be in one silo are actually getting themselves into another. And the worst offender, and I hate to bring this up again because I've brought this up for years in this chamber, short-term rentals. You know, according to Airbnb's 2022 listings, there are about 4,000 units available for short-term rental in the city of Boston. That approximately equals the capacity of our top 5 hotels. But unlike those large hotels, you know, like the Sheraton Boston Hotel and the Westin Waterfront, these folks are not hiring a trash service on the private side, on the commercial side, to take the trash away, but rather they are either instructing the tenants or the short-term renters to put the trash out on the street, or they're instructing the cleaning companies, which I should say are not living wage jobs, which you'd see at hotels, but rather folks who are probably making sub-minimum wage piecework wages, putting the trash into bags and leaving it out on the street. I would even say, because of the volume of this, that's probably one of the biggest drivers behind the picture book that a lot of you saw, where you see trash all the time, every day, put out, and ISD is never going to be able to track it down because it won't have a local address, so you won't be able to issue a fine. It's an out-of-towner or someone cleaning up after an out-of-towner who's going to do this. So we have sort of allowed ourselves to fall into this trap where we can educate every resident in the city, but you still have 4,000 growing number of people who are going to be, you know, staying in a de facto hotel, which is not paying for trash removal. They are not paying for security. They're not paying for public safety. They're free riding on the city budget. And I would just suggest that as you think about budgets and as you think about a solution to this problem, in addition to maybe coming up with a czar and de-siloing some of the trash removal, when, and I would say when, not if, we revisit the short-term rental ordinance, we should make sure that there's a mechanism so that these folks can fund their own trash removal. Because right now it's free riding on the backs of all the neighborhoods, and that's just wrong. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you, Ford. Mary Alice Sutherland, then Subuta. Mary Alice?
Good afternoon. I'm representing, I own a condominium and a 3-family in Adams Village in Dorchester. So I'm representing the other 2 owners as well. I've lived in the city for 70 years, 50 in South Boston and the last 20 in Adams Village, and have never had a rat problem prior to 3 years ago. The owners and my abutters seem to be very conscientious about their trash, or I know we are. But we're on our 3rd rat infestation. The first one is prior to COVID, and it occurred upon the construction of a 4-unit condo building, just 2 or 3 houses down the street. So I was surprised to hear that that construction isn't a contributor to waking up the rats, so to speak, but they seem to be traveling. And I may be talking about a correlation as opposed to a causation. The second infestation was after COVID. It was early this spring, and we had 2 rats in the building, in the cellar. And the city was responsive when I called, and I was grateful for that. The environmental health inspector came out. By that time, we had remedied what the terminators had identified as a possible port of entry to our basement. So during the second rat infestation this summer, we didn't have rats in the building. Nevertheless, we were outside shoveling rats. So my initial reason for being here was thinking that the city could extract some kind of remuneration for construction with these huge contracting companies to facilitate. We have now, the expenditure has been $1,500. But as I said, the COVID certainly contributed to this, which I hadn't considered until I received the notice. But there was an infestation prior to COVID, and the only thing that had changed in the neighborhood was construction. So again, I'd like to join others in thanking you for having this hearing. And wish me luck that we're not going on to our fourth rat infestation.
Thank you so much, Marianne.
You're welcome.
Definitely luck wished. Sue Buda and then Sharon Durkin.
Hello, everybody. I am Susan Buda from the Bay Village neighborhood, and I really want to thank you, Councilor Bach, for your leadership on these issues. We really appreciate it. And I want to thank you, Public Works, because you and your staff do so much, and we do appreciate it. I can only imagine the Herculean effort that you all have to put in to help us manage it, and I especially thank you for the zero waste movement. And, you know, I appreciate that. So we have also seen a huge uptake in rodent and trash activity, especially since the new capital trash management contract had commenced. The last time they won the contract, maybe 10 to 15 years ago, we were in an uproar. The city heard and moved to a different company. I think it was Waste Management. But then Capital won this last contract again, and guess what? We're in an uproar. This company may be cheaper, but the quality is a mess. That 1 hour earlier pickup to 6 a.m. especially leaves trash on the street all night. We even had a rat in an apartment behind us with a family with a 3-month-old baby. Now, we have to get over not treating private property because the baby's family has an irresponsible, absent landlord. They are brutally stuck. The rats don't know they're on private property. So why do we draw a line to treat only public areas if the residents want service? And finally, in that line, is the rodent issue really worth the lower cost of waste management contracts? Capital didn't work before, it's not going to work now, and I don't know if it's going to work in the future. But let's look at basic biology. The key to effective trash management is eliminating the food source. I turn our attention back to food. I thank you for the compost program. I use it. I find it easy. I am so grateful for this environmentally friendly initiative. We need to focus and expand the compost program. The bins are small. And yes, I agree, 5 gallons would work too. Once the food is contained and out of the general trash, the rodents can't survive. And I heard you, Councilor Bach, about that we don't have the infrastructure yet. But talk to Bootstrap. Let's get creative. Pave a path for minority and women-owned businesses to contract for pickup and compost in different areas of the city. Like, for instance, a company serving Hyde Park should not also have to serve East Boston. The geographical area is too large. So for now, I encourage expanding in densely populated districts. Maybe also add better composting bags, as the ones that come with the bins really leak and they're a problem. But generally the bins, when locked, worked really well. Okay, let's talk a little bit about containerization, which is difficult for small units. Now, I am lucky. I have space to store trash, but many of my neighbors in the downtown neighborhoods do not. We don't even have alleys, except for one very small area. It's almost unreasonable to think that we would all get up at 5:30 a.m. to put our trash out, but we used to do it before 7 a.m., and trash wasn't on the streets all night, at least that volume. And then if it's such a small window as was talked about, what do the many medical personnel who work 12+ hour shifts? You know, they'd miss every single trash window. All right. I also want to commend the 311 response app. It's wonderful, but it does take long, and every report is not addressed timely. You know, I reported something at 12 p.m. and it wasn't viewed until after 5 p.m. and of course it was deemed legal. Could BTD get involved in trash ticket violations? It's just a thought. And so you know, my comment there would have caused me a fine last weekend. Unbeknownst to me, our tenants who moved out Sunday morning put a large mass of trash out, probably around 5 a.m. When they said, that's when they told us they had to catch a plane out. They knew they were not supposed to do that. And we found it at 9:30 when we were on our way to church. We were absolutely appalled, and of course we cleaned it up. We were thankful that there was not food in the pile. We apologized to our neighbors, but we as owners deserved a ticket. And if it was a fast, I'm sure somebody reported it, but if it was fast, we would have gotten it, and that would hurt. But these violators were leased tenants. But let me also speak to Airbnb, as we have run a legal city-registered Airbnb for a number of years. Our policy is really strict. Not all the owners are the same, and yes, go after the illegal units, and it will help a lot. I just want to say it's a great idea for a city trash manager. I do not like to refer to this position as a czar, because we've had enough about dictators and those who want to be. Elected officials, we need a full bottle bill. 5 to 10 cents for every plastic bottle or can. If it's water or not, I mean, it's still a plastic bottle. I like the idea of charging super buildings. We want to stop that throwaway mindset, and larger buildings might have more way. And Councilor Flynn, I appreciated the concern about Chinatown, and just want to add that the education must be also culturally appropriate communication, and that rises just beyond a flyer. So thank you all very much, and thank to all the councilors that were here today.
Thank you so much, Susan. Sharon Durkin?
Hi, I'm Sharon Durkin. I live on Anderson Street in Beacon Hill. First, I want to thank everyone who's here today, and I want to thank our counselors for listening. There are many ways to spend our Tuesday morning, but we're here, and it means a lot that so many people who have been involved in the community for decades are here, and this is the issue that they care about, and this is the issue they want to amplify. I want to thank these residents for wanting our city to be a clean, safe space, and a place that, you know, I think about accessibility as one of the issues with trash. And when we put stuff out at night, it makes it very inaccessible for our residents to get around the city, particularly on Beacon Hill. I think about this as an opportunity to be part of our civic education. When I moved to Beacon Hill over 8 years ago, I remember having a neighbor knock on my door and tell me what the deal was with trash. And we all need that neighbor, but we also all need to be that neighbor. So we're all here and we're all a part of that process. So I really appreciate that. And I keep thinking about bait versus the rat buffet on Beacon Hill. Why would people why would our rats choose to take bait when they're given 2 opportunities to feed endlessly overnight? So just want to amplify those issues. Some issues that have been my friend is on the live stream, and she told me to mention that she thinks trash trackers on trucks would be a great idea. Consistency in bags is really important to folks because then we know what we're looking at in terms of recycling versus trash. And Again, I want to highlight the accessibility issue of trash overnight on Beacon Hill, especially in the dark. So thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you, Sharon. I think with that concludes all of our public testimony. Yeah, great. And I just really want to thank our city folks for staying for the whole time. Obviously, it's been a 3-hour hearing, and we really appreciate you guys staying to hear the public speak as well. And to everyone in the public who did come and spend your whole Tuesday morning with us. I do think this is like one of the critical issues, and just a couple of things that I wanted to amplify that I heard. I know that the question of having a smaller option on the composting bins has come up, Dennis. Can you just confirm, is that something that's being looked at?
Yeah, we're definitely looking at different options to roll out the next phase of what other types of bins we can provide. So we've gotten a few examples in the office, and we're taking a look at them now.
Great. And I would just say on the back end infrastructure on composting, to Subhuta's point, that's actually part of the reason why we put ARPA dollars into that, is because ARPA dollars have a strict spending deadline. So we're trying to kind of accelerate the creation of that so that we can ramp up the composting pilot as quickly as possible. But just, I think really glad to have John here from ISD and John here from code enforcement. And I think the way that I think about it is, when people are behaving badly, we send out code enforcement. When the rats are behaving badly, we send out ISD, environmental services. But it really is Dennis's shop. It's the public works waste management folks who have the opportunity to think about how we solve those problems upstream, right? So that we just have fewer tickets to give and fewer traps to lay. And so I think that is the kind of integrated pest management approach that we need to be taking as a city. Definitely excited to continue follow up on this. My whole team has been doing a deep dive on the trash contracts, so we'll be continuing to chase up with you, Dennis, and of course, I will be recommending the adoption of the $100,000 grant tomorrow at the council. I think the one other thing I wanted to say on that was just, I very much agree with, and I know you do too, Steve Morgan's point about just the fact that single stream recycling has unfortunately just not turned out to be the panacea that we thought, and instead, with the contamination rates, is really a bit of an expensive dead end in terms of sustainability. So I don't know if you want to say anything to that, but I just think it's worth putting on the record that the city is aware of
without a doubt, everything that was said was true, and we send our recyclables to a sorting center, so they do get sorted, and a lot of trash does come out of that stream, and a lot of these materials are less recyclable now, and that's why we're seeing high recycling costs in the industry.
Yeah, and so, I think, again, when you talk about what's upstream, just for folks who are here, that's part of why we all have to push the people who create receptacles to actually move towards just much more easily recyclable materials. In the long run in this country, it's probably going to involve making companies much more responsible for the disposition of the materials that they put out into the world. I think that's a piece of where it's really important to have citizen advocacy, because I think we're more likely to get there by everybody kind of owning what they're producing than everybody individually owning what they're using, if that makes sense. So, but we've got to fire on all cylinders still on it. So, thank you, and thank you again to the public, and especially to my colleague, Council President Flynn. President Flynn, since you're still here, did you want to say anything before I gavel us out?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say thank you to you, Madam Chair, for the important work that you've done for many years on neighborhood quality of life issues. You've been excellent, providing exceptional leadership on these issues, along with the dedicated team from Mayor Wu's office that are here with us as well. So I want to acknowledge these professionals, but also thanking the residents for their commitment to the city, to their neighborhood. But what's also important is that you're here, you're engaged, you're letting your city councilors know exactly what's important to you. I know there are people that are watching and listening on live stream or on cable television, but it's important for you to contact your at-large city councilors or your district city councilors, both I should say, and let them know that although this is not a sexy issue, this is a real important issue. It impacts almost everybody across the city. It's about quality of life issues. It's about public safety too, and public health. But during this budget season, your voice is important. You really need to get involved like you are and engage your district city councilors, engage your at-large city councilors about what's important, what's your priority as we head into the budget process. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, President Flynn. And with that, this hearing of the Boston City Council's Committee on City Services and Innovation Technology is adjourned. Thank you all.